Chapter 26. Rhine watched the flame in his hand change shape according to his will. He remembered that in the original book, Dumbledore had displayed his fire spells several times, the most memorable of which was of course the Fire God's Way spell. This seems to be a unique fire magic combined with transfiguration, and it is extremely powerful. In the direct battle between Dumbledore and Voldemort, both of them showed the ability to transform fire. It seems that for wizards of this level, transfiguration combined with other spells is an extremely important part. Although Rhine has the assistance of the Seven Apertures Heart, in terms of magical strength, he is still far from this level and cannot do this at all. Normally, if the subsequent talent rewards are not counted, it would take him a long time to reach this step. But with the talent of controlling fire, at least in the field of fire magic, it is entirely possible for Rhine to take a shortcut. The flame in his hand was about to go out, and Rhine gently waved the staff. The fire is blazing. This time, Rhine felt easy when releasing the fire spell, and the power was greatly increased compared to before. But as soon as the flame condensed, it was attracted into Rhine's palm again like a rainbow sucking water, where it transformed into the shapes of a fire snake, a fire dragon, etc. At first glance, it really looks a bit like Dumbledore, Voldemort, and others performing fire magic in the original novel. But Rhine shook his head, obviously not satisfied with this. It only has a form, and can only change its shape. It's fine as a trick, but if you really want to use it, why bother changing the shape? Just release it directly. But Dumbledore, Voldemort, and the others combined transfiguration and fire magic, which is obviously much more powerful than ordinary spells. What's the problem? Possibilities flashed through Rhine's mind, and finally he had a guess. The change in the shape of the flame is only an external manifestation. The key to increasing the power of the fire spell may be that transfiguration makes the flame more condensed. For example, the monsters born in the fiery flame are the result of the fiery flame condensing together, so their power will be greater than other areas in the fiery flame. What if I also make the fire spell more concentrated? Rhine did it right away. He gave orders to the flame in his hand as soon as he thought about it. Gather together. The raging fire reacted immediately and began to shrink towards the center. Its size began to shrink, but the flames became noticeably more concentrated. Even its color began to change. From the original red, it gradually turned into orange-yellow. By the time the flame of the fire spell condensed into a fireball the size of an adult's fist in Rhine's palm, its color was already between orange and blazing white. Its temperature has almost doubled compared to the beginning. Rhine even felt a little threatened by it. Although his bronze skin and iron bones make him invulnerable to swords and guns, and immune to water and fire, he is not a true white ape from the ancient times after all. Currently, he can only avoid ordinary water and fire. But at this moment, the fireball in his palm already had a sense that was beyond the scope of ordinary fire. Although it was not enough to kill Rhine, it was at least a threat enough to cause injury. If this fell on any other magical creature, even a giant monster, a big hole would be burned through it. Looking at the fireball, Rhine finally showed a satisfied look. Fireball is good. This is the killing method that a wizard should have. A wizard's life is incomplete if he can't cast fireball. But Rhine's attempts are not over yet. He had an idea before that wind and fire were a perfect match no matter what world they were in. What would happen if the talent for controlling wind and the talent for controlling fire worked together? The wind takes advantage of the fire, and the fire helps the wind, and its power may increase exponentially. With Rhine's current magical power, it is definitely far from the level of spells like the Vulcan clearing the way. But it is also enough to be used as a killer. Just when Rhine was about to try, his brows suddenly frowned and he seemed to hear a commotion in the distance. Rhine could vaguely feel the ground shaking. He seemed to hear an illusion of a dragon's roar coming from underground far away. After a moment of surprise, Rhine reacted immediately. That direction is Gringotts. A thought suddenly popped into my mind. In the original book, Voldemort possessed Quirrell and broke into Gringotts. This event should have happened a month ago, and there wouldn't have been such a big commotion. But as fate would have it, a month ago, because Rhine attacked Griphook and his friends, Gringotts believed that a powerful wizard was plotting something bad, so they stepped up their vigilance. Has Voldemort been waiting for his chance until the school is about to start? At the same time, Rhine's nose twitched. Even without his talent for controlling the wind, he could smell a foul, disgusting odor coming from the wind. Rhine walked quickly out of the workshop and asked Ollivander, who looked panicked outside. Mr. Ollivander, what happened? Ollivander's voice trembled. Someone is breaking into Gringotts. That's not all. A large number of Inferi have appeared near Gringotts. I heard that there is a dessert shop there holding an event. Many wizards are queuing up, including quite a few young wizards. We are now surrounded by those bloodthirsty black magic creatures. This must be premeditated. The intruder wants to use these Inferi and little wizards to distract the Aurors of the Ministry of Magic. Merlin, who could do such a cruel thing? When Rhine heard this, his pupils shrank instantly. Are you running an event dessert shop? This seems to be the place Hermione said she was going to. Ollivander was talking to Rhine. Luckily that place is quite far from here. Come on, Rhine, I'll take you away. Just the next second, he felt a creepy breath. A layer of gold and copper color flowed on Rhine's body, emitting an oppressive aura more powerful than that of a dragon. Mr. Ollivander, protect yourself. My friend is still there, I have to save her. Then, Rhine jumped out of the store like a tiger or leopard. The strong body brought by the copper skin and iron bones, when used without reservation, brings inhuman speed. The use of his wind control talent should have hindered Rhine's air, but instead it flowed along him. At this moment, Rhine was so fast that he was just like a fleeting shadow. He stepped on the roofs of shops on the street and rushed towards Gringotts. From a distance, Rhine saw a large group of at least hundreds of Inferi roaming around Gringotts. A cold light flashed across Rhine's eyes, and he quickened his pace and rushed over. Chapter 27. As they got closer to the group of Inferi, Rhine could hear the cries of a little wizard coming from the shop surrounded by Inferi. But there were still rays of magic light bursting out from the windows, blocking the zombies' steps. It seems that although 11 years have passed since the turbulent era brought about by Voldemort, the wizards who have experienced that era still have the courage to fight against dark magical creatures. However, the adult wizards who dared to resist have graduated for many years. The year they graduated from Hogwarts was the peak of their magical knowledge. By now, most of what they had learned has been returned to Hogwarts. Coupled with the poor quality of defense against the dark arts teaching at Hogwarts over the years, it is obvious that the adult wizards have long forgotten how to deal with this kind of dark magic creature. Could it be that Voldemort's curse on the defense against the dark arts position is a big plan? Good guy, he has lowered the defense level of the entire wizarding world against the dark arts by himself, so he and his Death Eaters are more difficult to deal with. As this thought flashed through his mind, Rhine was about to remind the wizards in the shop. But before he could open his mouth, a familiar clear voice came from the shop. Those spells have no effect on Inferi. Fire. The fire spell is the only magic that can destroy the Inferi. The fire is blazing. Along with the sound of chanting magic spells, a thin column of fire gushed out from the shop and rushed towards the corpses, causing these black magic creations to instinctively begin to hide. Immediately, several adult wizards who were reminded woke up as if from a dream, and cast fire spells one after another to stop the corpses. Rhine showed an admiring look on his face. He had already recognized that the clear voice was Hermione's. He has the Ravenclaw's thirst for knowledge, but more importantly, he has the Gryffindor's courage and tenacity. In the original book, in so many dangerous moments, Hermione is always the most reliable one. At this time, Rhine also came behind this group of corpses. The corpses closest to him seemed to smell the delicious and abundant vitality and turned around one after another. The pale and turbid eyes revealed a desire for life and blood. Several Inferi took steps and rushed towards Rhine at a speed comparable to that of an ordinary person jogging. But the next second, a fierce gust of wind blew past, and these corpses were like being run over by a semi-trailer truck. They flew back at a speed faster than when they pounced on them, and there were crackling sounds all over their bodies. Even a corpse soaked in black magic could not withstand Rhine's iron skin and skilled martial arts attack, and its bones were broken inch by inch. Even if it can still move, it can only crawl slowly on the ground. Rhine swung the staff in his hand. The fire is blazing. A ball of fire suddenly appeared, but it did not spread out like an ordinary fire spell. Instead, it condensed into 3 fireballs the size of ping-pong balls, flying towards the 3 yin corpses lying on the ground. The moment the white fireball came into contact with the corpse, it burst out with intense heat, turning the 3 black magic creatures into ashes in an instant. Rhine held his staff in his hand and strode over the human-shaped ash on the ground. More and more corpses were attracted by the movement here, and at least a dozen of them rushed towards Rhine again. Rhine's movements are still so simple. A magic wand was swung, causing the air to tremble, the wind to whistle with strange sounds, and water could not be poured in. A staff weighing dozens of pounds, combined with the strength of copper skin and iron bones, plus skilled martial arts, it is true that if it is hit, it will kill, and if it is touched, it will be injured. No inferi could get close to Rhine. When Rhine walked past, there were inferi with broken bones lying all over the ground. Then, Rhine did the same thing, using his fire control talent and the fiery spell to condense fireballs, and targeted and killed the yin corpses that had lost their ability to dodge. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 corpses have died at Rhine's hands. Fire spells kept shooting out from the shop in front, and Rhine was behind like a tiger coming down the mountain. The corpses were obviously a little thrown into disarray. In the shop, Hermione and several adult wizards saw this scene and all showed joy in their eyes. Someone is also attacking the inferi. Backup must be coming. Hold on a little longer, and we'll be saved. Even those little wizards who had not yet learned magic and could only wave their wands around randomly, calmed down from their panic. Some of the Gryffindor wizards even went to the window and waved their wands randomly, instinctively calling on their magic power to block the inferi. It has no lethality, but it is still quite boosting to morale. Just at this moment, Florin Fusco, the owner of the ice cream shop, walked out holding his magic wand and looking confused. Immersed in the joy of the arrival of reinforcements, everyone did not notice his strange behavior. Until a few dazzling red lights flashed. Several adult wizards who were still fighting against the inferi in the store were caught off guard and knocked unconscious. The little wizards were tied up tightly with ropes that spread out from the shop. They were tied up like dumplings, with even their eyes tied. The only one who escaped was Hermione, who noticed something was wrong. Her face was full of fear, and she pointed her wand at Florin Fusco. Seeing the blank look on his face, Hermione thought of the 3 unforgivable curses that Rhine had mentioned to her. Is this the Imperious Curse? Mr. Fusco, wake up! However, Hermione's voice failed to wake up Florin Fusco, but instead prompted Florin Fusco to launch further attacks. Spells poured out from Fusco's wand, and Hermione kept running and dodging, struggling desperately. Although her strength has far surpassed her own at the same time in the original novel, she is still no match for an adult wizard like Florin Fusco. What's more, Florin Fusco is a descendant of Dexter Fusco, the former headmaster of Hogwarts, and has strong magical abilities. If it weren't for her slow reaction after being hit by the Imperious Curse, Hermione wouldn't have lasted long in his hands. But now, without the fire spell flying out of the shop to block it, the corpse in the front made a bloodthirsty sound and strode towards the shop. They have to complete the task assigned by their master and use the blood of little wizards to delay the Aurors who are sent to reinforce from the Ministry of Magic. Of course, the master also gave instructions. Don't waste precious pure blood, blood doesn't matter. It just so happened that the little witch could move freely in the shop, and she smelled like a blood. In a moment, the corpse arrived at the door of the store. At this moment, Hermione was knocked down by a curse, and the wand in her hand fell out of her hand. Looking at the crumbling door, despair and tears could not help but emerge in her eyes. At the same time, Rhine also noticed some unusual movements in the store. His heart suddenly tightened. Whatever happened in there, it certainly wasn't good. There are dozens of yin corpses blocking the way ahead, and more than a dozen yin corpses are already attacking the door of the shop and are about to rush in. Rhine took a deep breath, his eyes turning cold. Then he raised his staff high. Magic power is called upon to the extreme, and the talent of controlling fire is brought to its fullest. The fire curse surged out. Not only was there fire created by Rhine himself, but there was also fire remaining on the battlefield, and there was also a column of fire spitting out from the leather bag. At this moment, all the fire was converging in front of Rhine's staff. Then, the talent of controlling the wind came into play. Clean up and use a new spell. The wind is howling. Rhine slammed his staff down and roared. The god of fire leads the way. Chapter 28. The flames, accompanied by strong winds, formed a path full of flames, sweeping towards Rhine. Rhine walked on the fire, the flames surrounded him and cleared the way. The blazing white flames were unstoppable and burned all the corpses blocking his way into ashes. All obstacles ahead are cleared away. Then, Rhine strode to the store entrance and kicked it. Boom! With a loud bang, the door and its frame fell off and flew out. Florin Fusco was confused by the raging flames outside the window, and then he saw the door getting closer and closer to him. The next second, he was knocked flying. Hermione, who was already in despair, saw Rhine appear at the door with tears in her eyes. Rhine. For a moment, Hermione thought it was an illusion caused by the heat. It was not until she was helped up by Rhine that she realized it was true. Great, Rhine, you came to save me, I thought I was going to die. After the joy, Hermione felt desperate again as she looked at the flames outside. With such a big fire, what should we do now? Rhine, please go quickly. There are still many people behind us. I will try to control the fire. Clear water like a spring. Hermione tried in vain to put out the fire with her spells. Rhine sighed. This girl was so scared just now, but now she has the courage to cover the rest of the group. If the Sorting Hat were here, Hermione would definitely pull out the sword of Gryffindor. No wonder in the original book, Hermione was not sorted into Ravenclaw but into Gryffindor. Extraordinary courage and intelligence are both Hermione Granger's best qualities, the former is even more outstanding and valuable than the latter. Immediately, Rhine patted Hermione's head to comfort her. Okay, I'm here, don't be so nervous. Rhine snapped his fingers. The flames that were still raging outside immediately condensed into fireballs in front of Rhine as if they were worshipping the King of Fire, like a rainbow absorbing water. Rhine waved his staff again, and the fireballs immediately flew out of the windows and landed on the inferi that had escaped the net. In a short moment, the previously densely packed corpses were burned up by the flames. Rhine said with a smile. Look, isn't this all right? Hermione stared at Rhine's profile blankly, the shock in her heart was indescribable. So this is Rhine's full strength? Strong, really too strong. Besides, being strong is fine, the key is that he is so handsome. Only then did Hermione realize that she was still being held in Rhine's arms with one hand. For a moment, a blush spread across her cheeks. Until a painful groan was heard from under the door that fell to the ground. Florin Fosco struggled to crawl out from under the door. After suffering this heavy blow, his eyes, which were controlled by the imperious curse, became clear. What happened? Rhine frowned, looking unhappy, and was about to give Florin Fosco another blow. Hermione keenly sensed Rhine's intention and spoke quickly. No, Rhine, he's under the imperious curse, he doesn't know what he's doing. Hermione looked sympathetic. It's so pitiful, Mr. Fusco. He's already so old. I don't know if he can still bear the after effects of the unforgivable curse. He is usually very generous. When I first came to Diagon Alley, he gave me a butter ice cream and a glass of honey lemonade for free. He is a wizard of repute, and this is a terrible thing for him. Hearing the last name Fusco, Rhine thought for a moment, then he remembered. In the original book, this old man Florin Fosco was kidnapped and killed by Death Eaters after Voldemort returned. The reason is not mentioned in the book, but J.K. Rowling mentioned it outside the book. It is because Florin Fosco knows too much about ancient magic, the Elder Wand and the like. After all, ancient magic appeared in Hogwarts 100 years ago, and the time when Principal Dexter Fosco took office was not long ago. As his descendant, it is not surprising that Florin knew some secrets of ancient magic. An idea came to Rhine's mind. His ancient staff was most suitable for ancient magic, but he had searched through history books for a month and had not found any clues. Perhaps he could find some clues through Florin. Considering that Florin was still useful, Rhine did not make things difficult for the old man. But to make sure the effects of the imperious curse have worn off, let him get some sleep. Falling unconscious. With a flash of red light, Florin fell into coma again. Hermione sighed. What a terrible day. I don't know who is so cruel and crazy to do such a thing. He will definitely be imprisoned in Azkaban until he dies. Rhine shook his head slightly. Can Voldemort live in Azkaban? That may not be the case. When those Dementors saw Voldemort, they would probably bow and salute him, and follow Voldemort to do something great. I have to say that Voldemort delayed the attack on Gringotts by a month compared to the original novel, and this extra month was not in vain. Even though Gringotts' security was extremely tight, it was still easily destroyed by Voldemort. Just as Rhine was thinking, a black flame transformed into a giant dragon and pierced through the dome of Gringotts. Then a cloud of black smoke floated out. But at this moment, a series of explosions rang out outside Gringotts. The Aurors from the Ministry of Magic finally arrived at this time and continuously fired spells at the cloud of black smoke and flames. The goblins in Gringotts also had red eyes. Even the fear of such power could not suppress the goblins' greed for wealth. Thief. Robber. No one gets away with robbing Gringotts. The fairies also blasted out their magic. The Aurors and goblins joined forces, which was obviously beyond Voldemort's expectations. He spent a lot of energy and effort to get hundreds of inferi, and even used the imperious curse on Florin Fosco, asking him to gather as many young wizards as possible on that day. Isn't this just to delay the Ministry of Magic Aurors? Where are those corpses now? Realizing that his plan was going awry, Voldemort let out an annoyed roar in the black smoke and casually threw out a beam of green light, hitting an Auror. Then, he raised his hand, and black fire suddenly rose up. The rubble around him turned into various poisonous snakes and swarmed towards the Aurors. While the Aurors were rioting, billowing black smoke roared across the street. But Voldemort, who was possessed by Quirrell, was in a terrible mood at this time. The Philosopher's Stone has been moved. That old BD Dumbledore must have moved it to Hogwarts. Damn it, how did that old guy know my plan? And the inferi, what happened to the inferi? I shouldn't have wasted so much energy, they can hold back those Aurors. Black smoke passed by, and Voldemort also saw the traces left by Rhine when he destroyed the inferi. His sight fell through the black smoke, and he saw Florin Fosco, who was knocked unconscious in the shop, and Rhine, who was holding a magic wand. Did this little wizard do this? The next moment, Voldemort gave a mocking smile. Stupid Dumbledore, you thought I would fall for it. The traces just now were clearly the Fire God's Way opening spell you used. Do you think I won't recognize it because you deliberately used it so clumsily and lowered its power? Now you must let that little wizard attract me in front, and you hide in the room at the back, right? You old man have a dirty heart. I won't be fooled by you. In an instant, Voldemort turned the black smoke in another direction and disappeared without a trace at an extremely fast speed. Rhine had been on guard when he noticed Voldemort's gaze. Although Voldemort in this state is far from his peak, he is not comparable to the one in the original book who is almost at the end of his rope, and even Harry Potter can't deal with Two-Face. It seems that the reason why Voldemort performed so poorly in his first year in the original book was that he consumed too much energy. Rhine originally thought that he would have to fight with Voldemort in advance, but he didn't expect Voldemort to leave suddenly. This made him frown, feeling somewhat relieved but also a little regretful. But soon, Rhine's attention was diverted from the messy Diagon Alley. Large amounts of information began to refresh on the system screen. The most conspicuous one is: when you were playing in Keoj with young Deng Chanyu, you encountered a blood sacrifice by the devil. You and young Deng Chanyu narrowly escaped death. You went through hardships together and your relationship became closer. Your relationship with childhood Deng Chanyu has reached the level of a life and death friendship. You get a reward, 5-color lightstone cultivation method. Do you want to collect it now? Chapter 29. When Rhine saw this system prompt, his heart skipped a beat. He and Hermione had already reached the level of close friends, and he was still wondering when they could become close friends. As a result, after experiencing the Gringotts incident together this time, my first life and death friendship was formed naturally. As a reward at the level of a life and death friendship, this is indeed unambiguous. The 5-colored stone in Deng Chanyu's hand is simply a weapon of cause and effect in Fengshen, and it will hit the target if it is used. Neza, Huang Tianhua and other top masters among the Chan Sect disciples were all beaten black and blue by Deng Chanyu's 5-colored stones and fled in embarrassment. That would be fine, but Kong Xian, the number one person under the saint, who was known for his 5-colored divine light that could sweep away anything, was slapped in the face by the 5-colored stone, and more than once. Even though the 5-colored stone can only injure the enemy and is not powerful enough to kill a person directly, based on its record of injuring Kong Xian several times, it is not an exaggeration to call it one of the top 3 hidden weapons in the prehistoric world. And now, the method of practicing this hidden weapon has fallen into Rhine's hands. No matter how hard he tried to hold it back, he couldn't suppress the ecstasy in his heart. If this could be mastered, Dumbledore would be hit by stones and his face would be bruised and swollen, and his nose bridge would be broken again. Compared with the joy of obtaining the 5-colored lightstone cultivation method, the other tip that should have made Rhine nervous seemed insignificant. You accidentally ruined Duobeo Taoist's plan in Keoj City. Duobeo Taoist has memorized your face. You and Duobeo Taoist have become enemies. Duobeo Taoist is arrogant and looks down on cultivators with ordinary backgrounds. You have ordinary backgrounds, and Duobeo Taoist has no regard for your talent. Duobeo Taoist is narrow-minded. If he does not cherish talent, anyone who offends him will be killed. In summary, the enmity between you and Duobeo Taoist automatically becomes a fight to the death. Looking at these lines of prompts, Rhine's eyes showed surprise. You know what, the system seems to have a pretty good eye this time. Isn't Voldemort the Taoist master of the wizarding world? He got his hands on 3 of the 4 founders' relics. Of the 3 Deathly Hallows, he had his hands on 2. He has the most treasures in the entire magical world, and he truly deserves the title of Taoist Duobao. Just looking at the blood-red endless fight in the enemy relationship column, Rhine shook his head again. Lao Fu, you are so stingy. But it's okay, I'm in a good mood and I won't bother with you. Besides, there's nothing wrong with fighting Voldemort to the death. Rhine looked at the rewards derived from Duobao Taoist's connections, and his eyes suddenly became extremely hot. Destroy one of Duobao Taoist's life treasures and you will get a reward. Luck will be added to your body. Your luck will be blessed, as if you are helped by heaven, mysterious and wonderful. Destroy all of Duobao Taoist's life magic weapons and you will be rewarded, innate roots. Your roots will be upgraded from acquired to innate, and you will be qualified to practice great supernatural powers. At the same time, many acquired things will be difficult to restrain you. Kill Duobao Taoist and make him unable to reincarnate forever, and you will get a reward, Zuxian Formation Diagram. If this formation diagram is used with the 4 swords Zuxian, Xian, Luxian, and Zhuexian, it has the ability to redefine the earth, fire, water, and wind. It cannot be broken without the 4 saints. Rhine took a deep breath, and then another. But even a person with a keen mind could not contain his ecstasy at this moment. Although the 5-colored lightstone cultivation method obtained from Hermione previously had an outstanding record, the difference between Deng Chanyu and Duobao Taoist was like heaven and earth. Is it possible that the eldest brother of Jijiao got his reputation in vain? This reward is really amazing. As for the simplest reward, good luck, it is extraordinary. Luck is something that everyone in the ancient world is fighting for. And to be able to have some luck associated with Taoist Duobao, how great can that be? In this magical world, it is probably more perverted than the protagonist's halo. Good luck in times of adversity and fortune in times of misfortune. No matter what you want to refine, even if the chance is only 1 in 10,000, with the blessing of this luck, you can accomplish it in one go. In short, it is equivalent to a permanently enhanced version of the Felicity Potion. Not to mention their innate roots, they are top-level households in the prehistoric world. With this foundation, practicing various great supernatural powers and achieving profound Taoism will be twice the result with half the effort, and it is also a huge boost to your strength. It's almost as difficult as taking the college entrance examination in the imperial capital. However, in order to obtain the innate root, it seems that all of Voldemort's Horcruxes must be destroyed. Even if Rhine knew the plot, it would probably take a long time to accomplish, not something that could be done overnight. But for this reward, Rhine is willing to put in any effort. What's more, the reward for completely killing Voldemort is even more exaggerated. The Zuxian Formation Diagram, that is the Zuxian Formation Diagram. It cannot be broken unless 4 saints take action at the same time. This thing is said to have the power to destroy the world. If we get Rhine and can do anything with it, Blue Star will probably explode. How could Rhine not be excited about such a huge reward? The point is, it's not like he has no hope of getting it. If he really had an irreconcilable feud with Taoist Duobao in the prehistoric world, what kind of reward could Rhine still dream of? I'm afraid there's no place to hide even if I run all over the world. But this is not the real prehistoric times, and Duobao Taoist is not the real Duobao Taoist. Voldemort is just a treasure-delivering boy. Rhine must kill him. Just as Rhine was ecstatic, Hermione in his arms blushed. Since the beginning, she had called Rhine softly several times, but Rhine just smiled silly, which was rare, as if he was extremely happy about something. Hermione's heartbeat was accelerating, and a shameful thought came to her mind. She had previously rejected her mother's suggestion to pack a few pretty dresses into her suitcase, but now she felt as if it was necessary. What if there really was a ball at Hogwarts? Hermione was lost in thoughts while the Aurors, who had just recovered from the attack left by Voldemort, rushed into the shop nervously. Scrimgeour, the head of the Auror office, had an expression as gloomy as the rocks on the coast, but when he saw that the little wizards were safe and sound, the taut string finally relaxed. It's okay. You are safe. He managed a smile with difficulty. Then, his eyes turned to Hermione and Rhine. Can you tell me what happened here? Hermione glanced at Rhine, and after Rhine nodded, Hermione told him everything that happened before Florin Fosco took action. Hermione's voice was sympathetic as she mentioned Florin Fosco. He's just under the control of the Imperious Curse. It's obvious that he doesn't know what he's doing. Scrimgeour interrupted Hermione. Whether he is under the Imperious Curse is a matter for our Ministry of Magic to determine. Of course, we will consider your testimony. And then what? What about the Inferi? Hermione was silent for a moment, and Rhine took over her words. She was probably fighting Florin Fosco at the time. I don't know what happened outside, but I was rushing here to save Hermione. There were Inferi everywhere. I thought I could handle them. I used fire charms on one or two, but there were too many of them. I thought I was going to be killed by them, but then I heard a spell, and then all the Inferi were destroyed by a powerful fire spell. Scrimgeour demanded, frowning. Fire spell? What did you hear? Rhine said with full confidence. The god of fire opens the way, that's what I heard. The next second, Scrimgeour's expression twisted and anger surged in his heart. Dumbledore. You took action, why didn't you catch the murderer? You old bee, have you eaten too many desserts and your brain is fogged? At this time, Rhine said. Sir, may I take Hermione and leave? I don't think it's a good idea for her to stay here. She must be eager to see her parents. What he said was not false. The situation at the scene was indeed a mess, and the air was filled with a pungent smell of burning. Not far outside the shop, there lay the body of an Auror who had been killed by Voldemort's killing curse, and several Aurors who had been burned by the fiend fire were groaning in pain. Coupled with the deafening cries of the rescued little wizards, it was truly a picture of hell that could not be worse. It would have been fine if Rhine hadn't mentioned this, but as soon as he did, Hermione became so frightened that tears began to flow from the corners of her eyes. Scrimgeour naturally would not make things difficult for the two little wizards, and he even forced out a more amiable smile. You are all great. Hogwarts will accept 2 outstanding young wizards. When you graduate, if you are interested, you can consider becoming an Auror. You have the potential. Okay, you guys go ahead and leave first. If there's any details I need to ask, I'll come back to you. Rhine nodded obediently, then left Diagon Alley with Hermione. After sending Hermione home, Rhine returned to his mansion and clenched his hands violently. System, receive the 5-color lightstone cultivation method. Chapter 30. The next moment, the 5-colored lightstone cultivation method appeared in the Rhine system rewards column. Then, a unique method came into Rhine's mind. With the learning ability brought by his 7 apertures mind talent, Rhine quickly understood the mystery of this method. Deng Chanyu can hit the 5-colored stones of immortals and gods. The reason why she can hit the target every time is that in addition to her unique stone-hitting technique, the most important thing is how to make the 5-colored stones. This kind of stone does not require any special materials. Any ordinary stone can be made. The key is to refine the 5 elements of spiritual energy into the stone in a balanced manner. The stone refined in this way will have all 5 colors and all 5 elements at the same time, and it can fly according to the principles of the 5 elements, so it can hit the target every time. Although its power is not strong, it also possesses the 5 elements and is not restrained by most of the magical powers in the world. Therefore, even Kong Xian's 5-colored divine light cannot be wiped out and will be beaten black and blue. After realizing this key point, Rhine frowned slightly. Now the only means he has to obtain spiritual energy is his talent of eating wind and drinking dew. The spiritual energy I get every day is not enough to cultivate my iron-skinned physique and increase my magic power. Where does the extra spiritual energy come from to be refined into the stone? Not to mention that the 5 elements of spiritual energy must be balanced. Rhine shook his head, and the joy of obtaining the 5-colored lightstone cultivation method was immediately diluted a lot. Not being in the prehistoric world certainly makes it much easier to get these rewards. However, lack of spiritual energy is also a key factor that restricts the effectiveness of these rewards. All we can say is that there are pros and cons. But soon, Rhine adjusted his mentality. His strength is already quite good now. There is no danger in Hogwarts that can do anything to him. He does not urgently need a fighting method like the 5-colored stones. He just needs to keep calm and take it slow. What's more, even without the 5-colored stones, Deng Chanyu's unique hidden weapon technique is still superb and not without value. Rhine grabbed a handful of pebbles and, with a trial mentality, threw them according to Deng Chanyu's method. When the first stone was thrown, only a whistling sound was heard in the air. The stone flew out at a speed that left an afterimage, accurately hitting the street lamp, making an extremely crisp sound. Rhine's eyes lit up. Compared to throwing with pure brute force, this method has an incredibly high improvement in strength and accuracy. He tried a few more times, and saw stones flying out like bullets, breaking the street lamps one after another. When the last stone in Rhine's hand flew out, there were no lights at the end of the street. Rhine roughly estimated that the stone flew at least 200 meters, and this was the result of not using his full strength. If he used all his strength, coupled with a good visual range and his talent for wind control, Rhine would be able to throw the stone more than 400 meters away. This is currently his longest range attack method, and other spells cannot fly so far. If this stone is thrown out, I'm afraid that the person who is hit will not know where the stone came from. Rhine's previous disappointment was replaced by joy. He also thought of another great use for this technique. If he were to play baseball, wouldn't he be a nightmare to the ball field with his pitching skills? Wait a minute, it seems like there is this kind of role in Quidditch, right? Chasers, they're responsible for throwing the quaffle into the opposite hoop to score points. Rhine's lips curled up into a smile. Would it be too much of a bully for the young wizards of Hogwarts to use ancient skills to throw the quaffle? Not to mention the Hogwarts intramural competition, even if he were to participate in the Quidditch World Cup, he would become a well-deserved legendary chaser, right? Quidditch is the most popular sport in the wizarding world. Compared to famous scholars, Quidditch players are more household names. Participating in Quidditch could be a great help for Rhine in gaining connections. From this perspective, this stone-throwing technique can really be of great use. And Rhine's lack of spiritual energy will definitely improve in the future. Apart from anything else, just getting the Sun and Moon Essence talent from Owl Roberts after going to Hogwarts should be able to greatly alleviate this situation. It may not take a long time to refine the real five-colored stone and bring out its mysterious power of never missing a target. And there is only one day left until Hogwarts starts. The talents of the Sun's Essence and the Moon's Essence, the talent of stick techniques, and the practice of the 8-9 mysterious arts were all there waiting for Rhine. Rhine is even more looking forward to what rewards he will get if he makes friends with Dumbledore, Professor McGonagall, and others. The reward for making friends with Dumbledore can't be lower than that of Voldemort, right? Could it be the Fantian Seal, the Three Treasures Jade Ruyi, the Tai Chi Diagram, the Heaven and Earth Shenhuang Tower, or something like that? With this thought in mind, Rhine could hardly wait to fly to Hogwarts. I have obtained all the talents I deserve. Wait a minute, there seems to be one missing. Rhine's eyes fell on the column of enemy relations. Xiao Sheng and Cao Bao are still extremely jealous of each other, and Rhine has already received the first-tier reward. If you want to get the second-tier talent in chess, you have to beat them up 3 times. 1 month ago, Rhine was bored and sneaked into St. Mungo's hospital and beat up 2 goblins again. Now I estimate that it should be almost recovered. Missing out on a talent, even if it is probably useless, is unbearable for a collector. With this in mind, Rhine boarded the owl sword again and flew towards St. Mungo's hospital. At this time in St. Mungo's hospital, Griphook and the other 2 were lying on the bed, their expressions were very excited. They already knew what happened in Gringotts during the day. That means Gringotts needs more manpower. All those vaults need to be re-inventoried. They will have to work overtime day and night. Griphook screamed and tried to get off the bed, pulling at the bandages. I can't allow this. I've missed too much overtime. I can't miss this again. It's been a month since I last heard the sound of gold coins clinking. I feel like ants are crawling all over my body. I have to go back to Gringotts to work. Nothing can stop me, not even the Dark Lord. The 2 goblins were extremely excited. But at this moment, out of their sight, Rhine was riding the owl sword and watching them from afar. If it were before, Rhine would have to sneak into St. Mungo's hospital and be very careful to beat up the 2 goblins. But now, it is much more convenient. He grabbed a handful of stones in his hand and aimed at the rings. The next moment, a handful of stones flew out with a whistling sound. Griphook and the others had just struggled to get out of bed and wanted to return to Gringotts when they heard the crisp sound of glass breaking. By the time they reacted, stones were falling on them again. After a muffled groan, the 2 goblins fainted again. At this moment, Rhine looked at the outstanding talent of chess and let out a long sigh. The exclamation mark is gone, and I feel comfortable. Only then did he leave St. Mungo's hospital feeling satisfied. September 1st, 8 a.m. Hermione, who had almost not slept all night, hurried out with her parents, dragging her bags. She couldn't wait to see Rhine again and go to Hogwarts with him. What surprised the Granger family was that a stretch limousine, the kind that important people ride in, had stopped not far from their doorstep. Rhine stepped out of the car, smiling and waving to Hermione. Hermione stood there blankly, while Mrs. Granger beside her covered her mouth with her hands and chuckled, then patted Hermione. "Mr. Rhine is here to pick you up, Hermione. It seems your friendship has developed rapidly over the past month." Hermione finally reacted and her face flushed, but after hesitating for a moment, she stamped her feet lightly and put the luggage in Rhine's car. Rhine took a deep breath, a gleam of anticipation flashing in his eyes. Set off. King's Cross. Chapter 31. It was 10:30 in the morning, half an hour before the Hogwarts Express departed. Rhine and the Granger family have arrived at King's Cross station. As soon as he came in, Rhine keenly noticed a number of wizarding families. After all, although they tried hard to be like Muggles, some of their dressing styles and behaviors made them stand out in Rhine's eyes like light bulbs in the dark. However, unlike the atmosphere full of joy and expectation recorded in the original work, the adult wizards in these wizard families almost all had worried expressions on their faces. What happened in Gringotts yesterday could not be kept secret, and the entire wizarding world now knows about it. This was definitely the most horrific attack by dark wizards in the past 11 years. It was said that the unforgivable curse, the Imperious Curse, also appeared, which almost killed so many young wizards. It was really worrying. What kind of dark wizard could break into Gringotts? Could it be that the person is not dead yet and he has come back? This thought hung over the wizarding world like a dark cloud, casting a shadow on what should have been a joyous day. Rhine's eyes showed strangeness. He remembered that in the original book, Voldemort's return happened in the 5th year of school. But Minister of Magic Fudge has been covering up the truth, causing many wizards in the wizarding world to be deceived and not believe that Voldemort has really returned. The result was that the Ministry of Magic failed to organize a proper defense and was breached by the revived Death Eaters. Fudge, the Minister of Magic who was not a Death Eater, did more useful things than any Death Eater. It can be said that he was nailed to the pillar of shame. It is quite ironic. But in this life, due to Rhine's influence, the wizarding world is now beginning to worry about Voldemort's return. Perhaps the situation in the original book will not happen again. Even if Voldemort returns, it will no longer be possible for him to seize power so easily with the Death Eaters. However, when Rhine's eyes showed strangeness, the Granger couple did not notice the strange atmosphere which had nothing to do with them, but were concerned about another issue. "Hermione, which station did you get on?" Mr. and Mrs. Granger have always trusted Hermione. After all, their daughter is so outstanding that they don't have to worry about anything, including train tickets. But when they heard the platform number from Hermione, the couple couldn't help but raise their voices and reveal a look of surprise. "Platform 9 3/4? Is there such a platform at King's Cross Station?" Coincidentally, similar conversations were heard from not far away. It was a big family, a short, fat woman, 4 red-haired boys beside her, and she was holding a little red-haired girl's hand. Needless to say, just by looking at the huge scene, Rhine knew that this must be the Weasley family. Mrs. Weasley was now questioning the children. "Okay, which platform is it?" Rhine raised his eyebrows, with a hint of confusion in his eyes. When he read the original novel in his previous life, he was somewhat puzzled. How could Mrs. Weasley not know which platform number it was? Even though she had graduated for many years and had sent her own child there so many times, why was she asking this again? Then, he began to understand a little. When Mrs. Weasley asked this question, her eyes were glancing at a lonely boy not far away. Who else could that skinny boy wearing ill-fitting clothes and worn-out glasses be but Harry Potter? Looking at Harry Potter's confused look, it was obvious that he didn't know what to do. Mrs. Weasley wasn't so much questioning the children as trying to get Harry's attention in an unawkward way. Percy Weasley answered his mother's question first with confusion. "Platform 9 3/4. Harry didn't seem to notice, so Mrs. Weasley asked Fred and George again. "Which platform are you at?" Fred and George gave the same answer, but Harry hadn't noticed yet. So Mrs. Weasley asked Ronald again, and when she finally asked Ginny, Ginny's shrill answer finally caught Harry's attention, and he walked towards them hesitantly. In fact, it wasn't just Harry. Several confused new families facing platform 9 3/4 also slowly walked over after hearing the conversation here. Rhine sighed inwardly. No wonder the Weasley family has friends all over the world, and Harry Potter is as close to them as brothers. You can tell the reason from their style. This is indeed a good family. At this time, the Granger couple also heard the conversation between the Weasleys, and hurriedly took Rhine and Hermione over to ask questions. Seeing this, Harry, who was not far away, quickened his pace and walked over for fear of missing any information. After some pleasantries, Mr. and Mrs. Granger looked amazed. Want to crash into that partition? Oh my god, why haven't we noticed anyone doing this before? Harry Potter was relieved. Thanks to Merlin, he was finally able to catch the Hogwarts Express and avoid having to go to Stonewall School because he missed the start of school. At this time, Harry looked at Rhine and suddenly felt that Rhine looked familiar, as if he had seen her on TV before. After a moment, he remembered and exclaimed. Rhine Snow? Are you the famous literary genius? Rhine smiled. This is all Muggle stuff. I'm also a freshman at Hogwarts. He held out his hand to Harry. Harry felt quite flattered. My aunt's whole family likes your books very much, even though they never read them. Well, I didn't say that. Anyway, they bought several versions of each of your books and even put a bookshelf there for them. They always said they hoped Dudley would have literary talent like you. My name is Harry Potter, it's an honor to meet you. By the way, Hagrid also told me about you. Rhine smiled even more brightly. You were also guided by Hagrid? This is such a coincidence. Let me introduce you. This is Hermione Granger, and this is Mr. and Mrs. Granger. Harry's face was filled with joy at meeting new friends. If he hadn't thought about the train leaving soon, he felt he could stand here and talk for another half an hour. At this moment, Harry noticed that Mrs. Weasley was looking at him with tearful eyes. He felt lost. Ma'am, you. Mrs. Weasley quickly wiped away her tears and smiled warmly as if she had seen her own child. Nothing, kid, can I call you Harry? Hagrid and I are old friends, and of course you too. I have many words of thanks to say to you, but the time is almost up. Harry didn't understand, but Rhine knew what Mrs. Weasley meant by thank you. During the more than 10 years of fighting with the Death Eaters, a large number of elite wizards emerged from the first generation of the Order of the Phoenix, some of whom even required Voldemort himself to kill. For example, the McKinnons and the Bones, both families can be described as full of loyal and brave people. In addition, there were the Pruitt brothers, who fought Voldemort to the end and were not afraid to surrender. Before Mrs. Weasley married Arthur Weasley, her name was Molly Pruitt, and the Pruitt brothers were her elder brothers. It was precisely because of the guidance of these two outstanding brothers that Mrs. Weasley's magical ability was so strong that she was able to kill Bella Lestrange alone in the final battle in the original book. Harry made Voldemort disappear, which was a revenge for Mrs. Weasley. No matter from which perspective, Mrs. Weasley loved Harry very much. But this was obviously not the place to reminisce about the past, and Mrs. Weasley was unwilling to mention those terrible things that happened in the past to Harry. Okay, time is almost up, let's get on the platform. Harry, Rhine, Hermione, don't be afraid, just go straight in. Come on, you go first, Ronald will follow you. At this moment, Ronald looked at Rhine, Hermione, and Harry who were walking in front and talking excitedly, and suddenly he had a strange idea. Why does it look like an iron triangle? Always feel like something is weird? Like I lost something? The next moment, while Ronald was still in a daze, Rhine reached out and grabbed his arm and smiled at him. Ronald? Stop staring blankly. Let's go. We have to hurry. We need to find an empty carriage on the train. It's hard to find a carriage that can seat 4 people at this time, so let's just go to the roof of the car and enjoy the cool air. I've caught up. Chapter 32. Feeling the strength on his hand and hearing Rhine's words, Ronald was stunned for a moment, and the feeling of being an outsider just now disappeared. He shook his head suddenly, quickened his pace, and caught up with Rhine and the others. The wall of platform 9 3/4 was getting closer and closer. Rhine's eyes showed excitement. He took the lead and rushed in head first. The next second, the place where the partition wall was before had become a wrought iron archway. A crimson steam locomotive was parked next to the platform packed with passengers, with a gleaming brass sign on it, Hogwarts Express, 11 o'clock. Witnessing this scene, Rhine couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth. Even if you have seen this scene in a movie in your previous life, it is completely different from the real situation. I really arrived at platform 9 3/4. In addition to the feeling that his dream from his previous life had come true, what made Rhine feel even better was Harry and Ronald who came in behind him. Rhine is not opposed to these two members of the Iron Triangle in the original work. They both have precious qualities. Harry has been through so many terrible things and yet he has always remained firm and brave. Even though he was influenced by the fragments of Voldemort's soul and had lived a hard life since childhood, he still did not hate the world in his heart, let alone become evil. As for Ronald, although he is not as smart as Hermione, nor as special as Harry, he even had a black spot in the original book where he parted ways with Harry. But he will always be the one who supports Harry the most and stands by his friendship the most. Ronald is to Harry as Sam is to Frodo in The Lord of the Rings. Frodo certainly has a special mission, but without Sam, he would not have made it to the end. It is definitely a blessing to have Ronald as a friend. Of course, although Rhine admired them, he would not rush to lick them. The main reason for bringing Harry and Ronald along was because the rewards they have are so tempting. Rhine glanced at Harry and Ronald, and lines of information appeared on the system screen. You and young Deng Chanyu left Keoch City and headed for the Yugzu Palace of the Chan Sect. On the way, you accidentally met the young Neza and the young Lei Zhenzi. These two are the pioneers in the conferred god tribulation. They have extraordinary origins. It will be of great benefit to make friends with them. Rhine's heart moved. It looks like Harry was mistaken for Neza by the system. You know what, there are indeed similarities. Neza is the reincarnation of a spirit pearl and is born with supernatural powers. Harry is the one holding a fragment of Voldemort's soul. If you must say, is it the reincarnation of a Horcrux? His natural magical strength is also far beyond that of ordinary people, as can be seen from his performance in spells such as the Patronus Charm and the Spell of the Dragon. In addition, Neza has a lotus body and is therefore immune to all spirit attacks. Harry has a fragment of Voldemort's soul, and probably because of this, he is quite resistant to the Imperious Curse. Even their fighting power is somewhat similar. The young Neza can slay a dragon, and the second-grade Harry can kill a 1,000-year-old snake monster with a sword. You know what, there's something interesting in the system's eyes. As for why Ronald was recognized as Lei Zhenzi by the system, it was probably because Ronald's tall and thin figure was a bit similar to Lei Zhenzi, plus he had red hair. Thoughts flashed through Rhine's mind, but soon he focused. Compared to how the system judged Harry and Ronald as Neza and Lei Zhenzi, he was more concerned about the rewards after making connections. Soon, dense information appeared in front of Rhine. Becoming a casual friend of Neza will earn you a reward, the natural talent of supernatural power. Those with this talent can easily tear tigers, leopards, bears and bears apart, and with a little practice, they can even slay dragons in the sea. This talent combined with the talent of bronze skin and iron bones will produce a qualitative change. Become a close friend of Neza and you will receive a reward, Lotus Body Protection. Lotus Body Protection can make you immune to soul spells, coma, hallucinations, etc., and at the same time eliminate the risk of being possessed by a demon. Become a life and death friend with Neza and you will be rewarded with the magical power of 3 heads and 8 arms. Once this magical power is used, your magic power and physical strength will increase dramatically. It is a magical power that greatly improves your actual combat ability. Rhine clenched his palms slightly. As for his physical talent, he already has skin of steel and bones, but the main function of these talents is to enhance defense, and increasing physical strength is just a byproduct. However, the natural talent for supernatural power is mainly focused on improving physical strength, but defense is not so good. If these two are combined, it would be a perfect match. No wonder the system says that there will be a qualitative change. In addition, the Lotus Body Protection is also very practical. It is equivalent to being immune to the Imperious Curse, Legilimency Curse, etc., and even the Stunning Curse. But what excited Rhine the most was the magical power of 3 heads and 8 arms after they became friends in life and death. This is a magical power. Looking at the ancient times of the conferred god, there were many spells, but only a few could be called magical powers. The 5-colored divine light, the laws of heaven and earth, these supernatural powers are well known, but the 3 heads and 8 arms are certainly not as good as them. But compared to ordinary spells, it is also a dimensionality reduction attack. Apart from anything else, just giving Rhine a few more arms, with each hand holding a wand, the spells he could cast would be as random as a Gatling gun. Then, Rhine glanced at the reward for making friends with Lei Zhenzi. The reward for being an acquaintance is a talent called Flying and Dancing with the Wind, which greatly increases the flexibility in aerial combat, and even makes the martial arts displayed in the air stronger than on the ground. This has a wide range of uses. Take the fierce aerial battle in the 7th year of the original book for example. The wizard's spell hit rate in the air is obviously much lower than that on the ground. But with the talent of Flying Wind, Rhine's spell hit rate in the air will not be affected. Besides that, this talent can also be very useful when playing Quidditch. As for the reward for close friendship, it is a talent called Wings of Wind and Thunder, which can greatly increase the flying speed while increasing the control over wind and thunder spells. Rhine feels like an upgraded and enhanced version of the wind controlling talent, with the added ability to control lightning, which is also quite practical. Of course, what made Rhine's eyes light up the most was the reward for establishing a life and death friendship with Ronald, a deep blessing. It can also increase your luck rewards. Rhine's eyes lit up, and he looked at Harry and Ronald with a little more passion in his eyes. This reward is really generous, but it is definitely not all that you can get from your study life at Hogwarts. There are still a lot of rewards to be obtained in Hogwarts. It's really the right choice for me to study this. After a moment, Rhine confirmed his destination of going to Hogwarts in his mind. I, Lane Snow, have a dream. I want to be a Yanko star. No, I want to be the #1 socialite in Hogwarts. At this time, the Hogwarts Express had already sounded its whistle and slowly drove out of King's Cross Station and into the wilderness outside the city. Soon, there was a loud noise of clattering in the aisle outside Rhine's compartment, and a smiling woman with dimples on her face pushed open the door of the compartment. She opened her mouth, but before she could say anything, the lines she had heard countless times reflexively came to Rhine's mind. Peanuts, melon seeds, 8 treasure porridge, are there any passengers needed? But the next moment, Rhine was still amazed by the black-hearted businessmen in the magic world. Do you understand the value of the idea of chocolate frogs coming with wizard cards? This was 1991, there was no trace of Little Raccoon or Wizard Noodles, and the wizarding world had this idea. Selling snacks which got mysterious secret path. Kids, were you scared by what happened in Diagon Alley yesterday? The chocolate frog manufacturers have made a difficult decision that goes against their ancestral traditions. To appease you little wizards, if you buy 10 packs of chocolate frogs today, you will get a rare card. Also, I'll tell you a secret, this batch of chocolate frogs doesn't include Dumbledore cards, so don't worry about the card pool being polluted. This is a great opportunity to collect them all. Chapter 33. Rhine's cheek twitched when she heard the witch's words. Wow, a limited card pool, right? However, after learning from his previous life, Rhine was no longer interested in collecting cards. In his previous life, when he was a child, he was also obsessed with collecting water margin cards in instant noodles, but he soon discovered that the card of Jade Unicorn Lu Junyi was extremely rare and no one in the nearby schools had it. Until one day when Rhine was traveling abroad, he bought a bag of instant noodles and got the Jade Unicorn he had been dreaming of. At that time, Rhine thought he was the son of destiny. It was not until he grew up that he realized that the damn profiteers released the cards by region and batch, and there would be 1 or 2 cards that were extremely scarce in each region. But in other places, this card may be a common item on the street. I guess in the wizarding world, the chocolate frog cards use a similar trick, and Rhine doesn't want to be fooled again. But Ronald was obviously moved. I have collected nearly 500 pictures, but I am lacking Agrippa and Portolomeo. Give me 10 packs. Ronald obviously wanted to buy 10 packs at once, but after touching his wallet, he interrupted his words. Forget it, give me 1 pack. Harry is also very interested in collecting pictures. Before coming to the wizarding world, he had never had any pocket money in his pocket, let alone enough to buy himself snacks. But now, he had a small fortune in the vault under Gringotts and his pockets were full of coins. At this moment, looking at the dazzling array of snacks, he had a secret thought in his mind that he might not even be aware of, to comfort the self who had never had any snacks to eat. They may not be particularly delicious, and Harry is not a greedy child, but buying a meal like this may make up for the grievances and envy he has felt for the past 11 years. Because of this, Harry reached out and bought various snacks from the witch, especially the chocolate frogs that Ronald was eyeing eagerly. Harry reached out and took 20 bags. He paid the witch 14 silver sickles and 8 copper nuts, a lot more than in the original book. Ronald stared at the snacks piled up like a small mountain. Hermione also planned to buy some from the witch, but was stopped by Rhine. Rhine said with a smile. Harry seems to be a little rich, but we are tight on money. Hermione and Ronald, we should just shamelessly take advantage of Harry's snacks. Harry, you wouldn't mind. Harry showed a happy look on his face. This was exactly what he wanted, he had never shared anything with anyone before, and no one had ever shared anything with him. Rhine suggested this, and it made Harry feel great. Rhine continued. But we're not eating your food for free, Harry. Well, I can give you a signed copy of the book, and a picture with you. Believe me, in the Muggle world, there are a lot of people vying for it. Immediately, he looked at Hermione again. As for Hermione, she's the most knowledgeable and know-it-all lady in science. I bet we'll have to beg Hermione to help with homework when school starts. Ronald was a little uneasy at this time. Do you have anything you can offer in exchange? It seems not. The clothes he wears are hand-me-downs left by his brothers, his pet is a mouse they don't want, and even his wand is old. The money I brought was only enough for daily expenses during the semester, and there was no budget for snacks on the train, so my mother packed a bulging sandwich for me, but I still didn't like corned beef. Ronald quietly lowered his head, intending to say that he was tired of eating these. But at this time, Rhine said slowly. Ronald, you have collected almost 500 cards? But me, Hermione and Harry are all beginners. You must have a lot of duplicate cards, right? If Harry pulls out the 2 cards you don't have from these chocolate frogs he bought, then I'll give them to you so you can complete the set. In exchange, if you have a lot of duplicate cards, can you share some with us? Then we can start collecting them too. Hearing this, Hermione, the know-it-all, was still a little confused, but Harry was the first to nod. In fact, in the original book, Harry noticed Ronald's embarrassment and offered to exchange a pie for a sandwich with Ronald, and then he and Ronald ate these snacks together. Ronald raised his head again, his face full of joy and a look of great elation. That's great, we can exchange them later. I have a lot of duplicate cards. I have 6 Morgana cards, enough for each of us to have 1 and some extra. Rhine smiled and made a cool gesture. As expected of a local of the magical world. Although he didn't know what Rhine meant specifically, Ronald still embarrassedly touched his head and laughed. Soon, Hermione and Harry also laughed. In the carriage, Rhine and others ate snacks while listening to Ronald talk about things in the wizarding world, especially Quidditch. Do you know about flying brooms? There are the Sweep series, the Comet series, and the Nimbus series. The latest Nimbus 2000 is the fastest flying broom. When I have money, I will buy a broomstick that I like. At this time, the carriage door was pushed open again. 3 boys came in, one of whom had platinum hair and a defiant look on his face. Red hair, freckles all over your face, you must be a Weasley. Don't dream. The Weasley family has too many children to support. You can't afford a flying broom. Maybe a second-hand one is possible. The other 2 stood beside the boy, like a team of bodyguards. There is no doubt that this is naturally Draco Malfoy, Harry Potter's nemesis at Hogwarts in the original book. By the way, the meaning of this name in Latin is really cool, I am an evil dragon. No wonder Ronald coughed slightly and almost laughed out loud when he heard the name. However, at this moment, compared to the quarrel between the children, Rhine was more concerned about what kind of reward Draco Malfoy would receive according to the system's judgment. This is Harry Potter's mortal enemy, the noble descendant of the Malfoy family. In the eyes of the system, he can't be an unknown person, right? The rewards should be substantial. Will the system think he is Huang Tianhua? He is of noble birth, very strong, and has a yellow character on his name, which matches Draco's yellow hair. Or Yang Jian. In terms of dog-raising techniques, there is still something in common, right? Yang Jian has 1 dog, and Draco has 2. It is not impossible for the system to recognize him as Yang Jian. It's just that Tuxing Soon is a bit forced. Although we can find common ground in that they are both short in stature, it still feels a bit unreasonable. It shouldn't be possible, right? The next moment, Rhine looked at the system screen and then was stunned. What the hell? Who the hell is Chong Hai-hu? Chapter 34. On the way to Yuexia Palace, you had a conflict with Chong Hai-hu. He is a disciple of Zhijiao and has extraordinary cultivation. Please be careful. Looking at the information appearing on the system screen, Rhine felt a little numb. He had read quite a few prehistoric novels in his previous life, and he basically remembered all the characters with names and outstanding military achievements in the prehistoric conferred gods. But who is this Chong Hai-hu, this chicken? What are your achievements? Of course Rhine knew that there was such a character in Investiture of the Gods, but the key point was that he really couldn't remember what Chong Hai-hu had done for a moment. It seemed that he had just shown up in Investiture of the Gods and then disappeared. What connection could this kind of person have with Malfoy? Wait a minute. He didn't do anything. He just showed up during the conferred god tribulation and then disappeared? Rhine had a thoughtful look in his eyes. It sounds like this is something Malfoy would do. In the original book, although the Malfoy family stood on the side of the Death Eaters, did they really do anything? It seemed like he was just a supporting role in the war. Apart from contributing a manner and a magic wand, and changing sides a few hours before the battle, there wasn't really much of a scene. Is this where the system is finding the common ground? Then, Rhine gradually recalled what Chong Hai-ho had done. This person was born in Jijiao, but he realized early on that the general trend could not be defied, so he had the idea of rebelling and would rebel directly when he found an opportunity. The key point is that after the rebellion, he got the fiefdom he wanted and started to work without putting in any effort. Although he still could not escape the calamity of being killed in the conferred god list and was inevitably listed on the conferred god list, his actions during his lifetime allowed him to obtain a fiefdom as one of the 4 great princes in the world. Therefore, his reputation in the conferred god list was by no means ordinary, and he directly became the great Emperor Sishan Zhaosheng of Nanyuhongshan. Thinking of this, Rhine felt more relieved. Damn, the more I look at it, the more it looks like something Malfoy would do. System, I wronged you. Your eyes are so damn effective. Immediately, Rhine suppressed the distracting thoughts in his mind. How the system recognized Draco as Chong Hai-ho is not important. The reward is what Rhine cares about. His gaze turned towards the rewards derived from Chong Hai-ho's network. Become a casual friend of Chong Hai-ho and you will receive a reward, Double Axe Chain. This talent allows you to coordinate your 2 hands as you wish, especially when using double axes, which will be more effective. Rhine curled her lips. General stuff. What good are the double axes to me? It's not as good as Hagrid's talent in stick fighting. It means that if both hands cooperate with each other, it may be of some use in brewing potions or doing alchemy. The following friendship reward also disappointed Rhine. Become a close friend of Chong Hai-ho and you will receive a reward, Flying Tiger Military Strategy. This method, combined with specific medicinal food, armor, and weapons, can train 3,000 Flying Tiger soldiers, who are the best in the world. A full complement of 3,000 Flying Tiger soldiers can rival immortals and gods. At first glance, it seems to be quite good to be able to rival the military training methods of immortals and gods. But this thing requires medicinal food, as well as specific weapons and armor. Rhine knew without even thinking about it that these were definitely things that needed to be refined with spiritual energy. Not to mention how troublesome it would be to train the flying tigers by yourself. Even if you spend all your energy to gather these resources and find 3,000 soldiers who meet the requirements, the future maintenance will still be a huge expense. Rhine himself is still in a stage of lack of spiritual energy resources. How can he have the resources to train soldiers? He doesn't have the spiritual energy to refine the 5 colored stones yet. Therefore, this Flying Tiger military strategy is also a useless thing. The only thing that made Rhine's eyes light up was the last reward. Become a life and death friend with Chong Hai-ho and you will receive a reward, the Iron-Beaked Eagle breeding method. This method can breed an iron-beaked eagle, which is extremely fast and hard to defend against with one peck. This method, combined with Rhine's spiritual beast cultivation talent, is quite meaningful. Even the owl Hermes that Rhine has on hand might be able to be cultivated in the direction of the iron-beaked condor. But the next moment, Rhine saw the next line of prompts. Since Chong Hai-ho is a selfish person and difficult to befriend, we can only become close friends at best, and it is impossible to become a life and death friend through normal means. Because this person is cunning and puts profit above all else, it is difficult to achieve an undying hatred relationship through normal means. Rhine's eyes were full of question marks. The only reward that I care about is the level of life and death friendship, but the system tells me that it is impossible to achieve life and death friendship. Even the other way around, getting rewards by making enemies doesn't work, there's no way to fight to the death? No, what are you doing? After a moment, Rhine frowned and noticed what the system said. If the normal way can't achieve it, then is there any abnormal way? Then, the system actually gave a message reply. The black tiger head and the rat's 2 ends, jumping left and right, this is a villain, afraid of power but not virtue. If you keep showing kindness to him, he will ignore you and only treat you as a tool for use. You will never be able to become a life and death friend. If you suppress them blindly, they will flatter you if they feel they are unmatched, and will never let the relationship become a dead end. The only way is to establish a close friendship first, then suddenly rebel, and then it is possible to achieve a life and death struggle. Or do the opposite, First make them enemies to the point of being extremely jealous of each other, and then try to make friends with them, and you may be able to become friends for life and death. Rhine tasted it and suddenly understood. Why didn't you say it earlier? Malfoy is just a masochist. The better you treat him, the more cocky he becomes. But a beating will leave a lasting impression on him. But should I make friends with him first and then slap him, or should I slap him a few times first and then make friends with him? While Rhine was thinking, Malfoy had already had a conflict with Harry, Ronald, and others just like in the original book. This time, even Hermione, who was not here in the original book, was implicated. He said slowly. If I were you, Potter, I would be very careful. If you hang out with people like the Weasleys or Hagrid, or people of inferior blood, you will be influenced and end up like your parents. Before he finished speaking, Harry and Ronald stood up. Ronald's face is as red as his hair. Say that again. Hermione's face turned pale with anger and tears were flashing in her eyes. It was the first time she met such a rude person. Seeing this, Rhine had already made a decision in his heart. It seems like there is no need to think. At this moment, Malfoy sneered at Harry, Ronald, and Hermione who were standing up. Oh, you want to fight, don't you? Crabbe and Goyle stood on either side of Malfoy, looking down at Harry and the others. At this moment, Rhine's calm but inexplicably chilling voice rang out in the carriage. Well, I do want to discipline that naughty kid. Immediately, Rhine looked at Harry, who was closest to the carriage door, and gave him an inexplicable smile. Harry, please close the carriage door. Chapter 35. There was a convincing power in Rhine's voice. At a loss, Harry almost subconsciously obeyed Rhine's words and closed the carriage door tightly. But then, Harry felt a little regretful and uneasy. Although Ronald is tall and thin, either Crabbe or Gore is much stronger than him. Harry himself was even more vulnerable. He was so thin and although he was agile, there was no room for him to dodge in the cramped space after the carriage door was closed. As for Rhine and Hermione, one is a great writer and the other is a girl, Harry doesn't think they would be good at fighting. Well, it looks like it's up to me and Ronald. At worst, they'll just get beaten up. I've been beaten up enough by Dudley anyway. They don't look like they've ever practiced boxing like Dudley did. Such a thought flashed through Harry's mind. He tried hard not to show any fear in his eyes and stared at Malfoy and the others. At this moment, a trace of panic flashed in Malfoy's eyes. No, what does closing the carriage door mean? Are you really going to fight? Damn, I've never had this fight. I just did my hair today, and it's not going to ruin my life, is it? But soon, Malfoy also reacted. I have Admiral Crabbe and Goyle, what do I have to be afraid of? He had a malicious look on his face. Crabbe, Goyle, you go. That muggle-born Mudblood dared to close the carriage door, so let's teach him a lesson. When Malfoy called him Mudblood, Ronald's eyes turned red and he was about to rush up and hit Malfoy. I don't allow you to say such dirty words, and I don't allow you to curse my friend like that. Although Harry didn't know what Mudblood meant, after hearing what Ronald said, he understood that it must be an extremely vicious insult in the wizarding world. He also rolled up his sleeves, with anger boiling in his eyes. But at this moment, Ronald and Harry were both pulled by a force, and then somehow they floated back to their seats. The next moment, Rhine stood up. Harry and Ronald saw a scene they would never forget. Rhine stretched out his hand and pressed towards the tall and strong Crabbe and Goyle. They still wanted to resist, but in just a moment, the two were pressed heavily to the ground, their eyes went dark, and there was no movement. Malfoy was stunned for a moment, then waved his wand subconsciously. But his wand only emitted a streak of sparks before it was snatched away by Rhine, who threw it aside and stopped. Rhine pressed Malfoy's head with his palm and gave him a loud slap. Half of Malfoy's cheek immediately became red and swollen at a speed visible to the naked eye. After a burst of pain, Malfoy let out a sharp, shocked cry. You dare to hit me? Do you know who I am? My father is a member of the Hogwarts Board of Directors, and I want my father to expel you. Hermione, Harry, and Ronald all turned pale when they heard Malfoy's threat. After all, they are all children, and the school board is very important to them. If they were fired, they wouldn't know what to do. Rhine showed a strange smile. Your father is just a member of the board of directors. He doesn't have the final say on who to fire. Besides, if you really want to make a big deal out of this, I welcome it. You go to the Hogwarts board of directors and ask your father to find a way to expel us, but we are going to go to the Ministry of Magic and the Daily Prophet to let the entire wizarding world know about this." Malfoy was stunned for a moment, not understanding what Rhine meant. "What does this have to do with the Ministry of Magic or the Daily Prophet?" Rhine grinned. "Diagon Alley, didn't you see the Gringotts news? The Aurors of the Ministry of Magic are frantically trying to track down the dark wizard who fabricated this incident. The reporters of the Daily Prophet are also like dogs chasing meat bones. So many wizards in the wizarding world are looking forward to catching the murderer as soon as possible." Tisk tisk, at this time, the heir of the Malfoy family, oh yes, that Malfoy who once surrendered to the Dark Lord and later said that he was spared from prison by being under the Imperious Curse, brought his followers and took the initiative to come to two Muggle-born wizards, a pure-blood family wizard who was against the Dark Lord, and a savior carriage. He closed the car door, hurled insults, and attempted violence. By the way, Hermione and I were personal witnesses of the Gringotts incident, and Director Scrimgeour praised us for our potential to become Aurors. The clues we provided are important for investigating the Gringotts incident. Hermione and I both feel that your words reflect your Malfoy family's disdain for half-blood and Muggle-born wizards, and the possibility of active attacks. Plus, the Malfoy family has a history of joining the Dark Lord. The Gringotts incident is very likely related to your Malfoy family." The color drained from Malfoy's face, turning pale, and his lips trembled. "You're talking nonsense. Rhine plays with taste. You know better than me what your family has to do with the dark arts and dark wizards. You'd better make sure that your father really can't do such a thing. But I dare say that there must be a large number of dark magic items in your home, which may be the tools involved in the case. Let the Ministry of Magic check and perhaps they can find clues. What will happen to your father then? Will he be thrown into prison? What is the name of prison in the wizarding world? It seems to be called Azkaban." The name Azkaban completely terrified Malfoy. He was really not sure whether his father really had nothing to do with the Gringotts incident. The newspaper said that he was a dark wizard with extremely powerful magic and the belief that pure blood was supreme. My father fits this description very well. If my father was really arrested and imprisoned in Azkaban. Malfoy was only a child after all, and he completely panicked at the thought of this possibility. No. He pursed his lips and a pleading look appeared in his eyes. "I apologize to you, please don't report this to the Ministry of Magic. Please, I'll do anything as long as you don't do this." Rhine smiled like a fox. "Real?" Draco Malfoy nodded repeatedly and pleaded. "Really, I won't tell my father and I'll pretend nothing happened. Otherwise, you can slap me again, but just don't tell the Ministry of Magic." Rhine took out a piece of paper and wrote a line of words. No, I am a reasonable person. Come, sign this paper, and I will help you and your father keep this secret and prevent him from being taken to Azkaban." Malfoy looked at the parchment and saw a line of dizzying handwriting. "I hereby solemnly swear to support Albus Dumbledore and the Dark Lord is just stinking shit." Chapter 36. Malfoy's voice was trembling as he read out these words. He looked at Rhine with horror as if he had seen a devil. "You, how dare you?" Rhine grinned and pressed the quill into Malfoy's hands. "Master Malfoy, please don't ask so many questions. Sign your name, and we won't report this to the Ministry of Magic, and the Ministry of Magic won't investigate your father. If you don't sign, tisk, you probably don't want your father to be imprisoned in Azkaban, right?" Malfoy pursed his lips, took the quill with trembling hands, then closed his eyes and signed his name. "Is this all right?" Rhine put the parchment away with a satisfied look on his face. "Okay, Harry, open the carriage door. Master Malfoy, you can take your two followers with you." Immediately, he gently waved his staff. Clear water like a spring. Two streams of water poured onto Crabbe and Goyle's faces, causing them to suddenly open their eyes with confused expressions. What happened? Looking at the two people who still didn't understand the situation, Malfoy was annoyed at first, but then he felt relieved. Fortunately, Crabbe and Goyle didn't see what happened just now. He forced out the words stiffly. "Okay, let's get to Hogwarts, let's go." Then, Malfoy left angrily with Crabbe and Goyle. At this moment, looking at their embarrassed figures leaving and their expressions of being willing to do anything just now, a burst of laughter suddenly broke out in the car. Ronald laughed so hard that he bent over, his expression distorted. "The Galloping Gorgon, Merlin's puff sleeves, Rhine, this is the first time I've heard of the Malfoy family being so embarrassed. You are amazing. Harry also laughed until tears came out of his eyes. He took off his glasses and kept wiping them with his hands. He suddenly felt as if he had learned something. To win a battle and deal with these bastards, there are other means besides brute force. Even Hermione couldn't help but curl up the corners of her mouth. But soon, Hermione thought of something and looked worried. Rhine, could it be that Malfoy's father is the murderer in the Gringotts incident as you said? Wouldn't it be bad if we didn't tell the Ministry? Rhine curled his lips and said disdainfully. No, no, I was just trying to scare Malfoy. If you carefully study the history of the Dark Lord, you will find that the Malfoy family did nothing but pay money. Believe that they can break into Gringotts, then you might as well believe that I am Merlin. I need some gold galleons to get my magic back. Give me the money now. These words caused Ronald and Harry to laugh again. Even Peter Pettigrew, who had turned into a spotted creature, couldn't help but let out a squeaking laugh. Soon, a smile appeared on Rhine's lips and he joined in the cheerful atmosphere. Because after the Malfoy incident, his relationship with Ronald and Harry, whom he had just met, had grown by leaps and bounds. On the system light screen, waves of information flashed by rapidly. You, together with the young Neza, the young Lei Zhenzi, and the young Deng Chanyu, defeated Chong Haihu after this incident. Your relationship with the young Deng Chanyu deepened. You and the young Lei Zhenzi have reached a close friendship, and you receive rewards. The Flying Wind Dance talent and the Fluttering Wind and Thunder talent. You and the young Neza have reached a close friendship, and you receive a reward. Natural Divine Power and Lotus Body Protection. After getting 4 rewards at once, Rhine had only one feeling, it was a huge fat wave. If you claim these 4 rewards, your strength will increase dramatically. However, the information refresh on the system screen has not stopped. In the enemy relationship column, Chong Haihu's name appeared. You severely humiliated Chong Haihu, causing him to bear a grudge. Your relationship with Chong Haihu has reached a point of jealousy. Since you have beaten Chong Haihu once, you get a reward, Double Axe Chain talent. Rhine understood. Yes, I had forgotten all about Malfoy. So this time there are 5 talents. The next second, to Rhine's surprise, another line of information was refreshed. The long-eared Ding Guang immortal hiding in the dark witnessed you humiliating Chong Haihu. Although they are both members of Zhijiao, Chong Ding Guangxian is a nobody and is considered the lowest class in Zhijiao. He is often looked down upon and is often humiliated by Zhijiao disciples of noble birth, such as Chong Haihu. You humiliated Chong Haihu, which made Chong Ding Guangxian very happy. You have become casual friends with the long-eared Ding Guang immortal. Rhine was stunned for a moment. Long-eared Ding Guang immortal? A traitor who betrayed Zhijiao when it was preparing for a desperate fight, and gave the key magic weapon, the 6 soul banner, to Chen Jiao, completely destroying Zhijiao's chances of winning? Inside the carriage, besides myself, Hermione, Harry, and Ronald, where did this other person come from? Then, a possibility emerged in Rhine's mind, and his eyes swept over the still squeaking mouse Banban. Is it him? Peter Pettigrew. Peter Pettigrew was judged by the system to be the long-eared Ding Guang immortal, which was quite appropriate. Rhine even felt that the long-eared Ding Guang immortal was far inferior to Peter Pettigrew in terms of backstab. After all, the long-eared light fairy only betrayed once, but Peter Pettigrew first betrayed the Potters at the most critical moment, successfully resurrected Voldemort after lying dormant for more than 10 years, and then let Harry go when he worked for Voldemort. Malfoy would have to say awesome when he saw this. But Rhine really didn't expect that after defending Harry and humiliating Malfoy, he could also establish connections with Peter Pettigrew. He suddenly thought of the fact that in the original book, the farce on the train was interrupted by Peter Pettigrew biting Crabbe's finger, drawing blood, and the 3 Malfoys then hurriedly fled. Peter Pettigrew had clearly betrayed Harry's parents, but at this moment he couldn't help but defend Harry. Speaking of which, human nature is really complicated. But soon, Rhine's sigh disappeared. The grudges and hatreds of the previous generation on Harry's side had nothing to do with him. He was more concerned about the specific rewards. Continue to browse the system light curtain. During the conferred god tribulation, Chong Ding Guangxian was able to betray Tong Tian Jiaozhu and give the 6 soul banner to the Chan Sect. His ability to conceal his aura was truly extraordinary. If you become casual friends with him, you will gain a talent, hidden aura and concealed motion. With this talent, if you intentionally hide, your presence will be greatly reduced, and ordinary sky eyes and exploration techniques will find it difficult to lock onto your aura. Rhine's eyes showed strangeness. Wow, this talent is quite practical whether it's for hiding or backstabbing. Then he looked down again. If you become close friends with him, you will gain the talent to conceal the truth. You can use fake death and other methods to conceal the secrets. Prediction and divination will not work for you. If you make a life and death friendship with your ally, you will gain a talent, betrayal. If you backstab your ally at the most critical moment, you will often succeed. This talent is extremely effective. If you use it to its full potential, even a saint may be able to backstab successfully. Chapter 37. Looking at the last line of information, Rhine's mouth twitched. The reward for close friendship is also to maximize life saving, which is not surprising. The reward for this life and death friendship actually gave a backstab type talent, and the system even specially marked it as extremely effective, possibly even effective against saints? How to say it? He is worthy of being the immortal Chang'er Ding Guang who can backstab Master Tong Tian. Saints are the most advanced beings in the world. It is no exaggeration to call them omniscient and omnipotent. Those below saints are in completely different dimensions. Those magical weapons that can make the top monks below the level of saints look miserable are like toys in front of saints. So many cultivators died during the conferred god tribulation, but the saints were unharmed. Even though he suffered a crushing defeat at the hands of Zhijiao, Patriarch Tongtian was only confined by Hung Jun. Apart from being disheartened, he actually suffered no harm. As you can imagine, it is rare for events to have an impact on saints. If he could have another talent of this level, Rhine feels like he would take off. Unfortunately, it turned out to be a backstab talent. Rhine sighed inwardly. But at this moment, a voice echoed outside. The train will arrive at Hogwarts in 5 minutes. The sound of this voice made Rhine suppress the regret in his heart. Hogwarts is about to arrive. The connections I can make there will definitely far exceed those in the outside world. Perhaps I will be able to see this kind of extraordinary talent that can influence saints again. Thinking of this, a hint of heat flashed across Rhine's eyes. Harry and Ronald also came to their senses. We're going to Hogwarts. At this moment, Hermione screamed in panic. We haven't changed our clothes yet. Immediately, the Queen of Know-It-Alls demonstrated her decisiveness. I'm going to go out now. You have 2 minutes to change into your robes. I'm a lady, so I need 3 minutes. Now, immediately, right away. As the carriage door closed, Rhine, Harry and Ronald looked at each other. The three of them quickly took out their robes and started to change into them. Ronald was trying to put on his old robe which was obviously too short, while trying to cover up his old sneakers as much as possible. But obviously, this is futile. Just when Ronald sighed and was about to leave it at that, he saw Rhine take out a new robe from the suitcase and handed it to him. Ronald's face flushed instantly. But before Ronald could speak, Rhine said quickly. First, I didn't buy this robe. I got it for free from Madame Malkin. She tried to convince me to be her model, but I didn't agree. But I told her that I would find a tall and thin person for her when I got to Hogwarts. Your figure seems to be just right. After you wear this robe, you will have to cooperate with Madame Malkin as a model during the holidays, so there is no need to thank me. Just don't scold me when you are seen in the window. Secondly, don't say that old robes are comfortable to wear. Harry would definitely disagree. I came from an orphanage as well. I can't believe that ill-fitting clothes are comfortable to wear. Third, man, it's the first day of school and you may have to walk around in front of the whole school. Who doesn't want to wear new clothes? I suggest you put them on. What if we have to take a photo? You don't want to wear old clothes, do you? Finally, we have 52 seconds left. Hurry up. I can already sense the murderous aura emanating from Hermione. Ronald's nose twitched, he whispered a thank you, and quickly changed into a new robe that fitted him. The old sneakers were covered by the new robe and could no longer be seen. Ronald looked brand new from head to toe. This was his first new robe in 11 years, and it was made of the latest material and style. It's nice not to have to worry about whether a frayed collar is going to stand out or whether an old pair of sneakers is going to show through. He glanced at himself in the window's reflection and his eyes lit up. I'm so damn handsome. But before Ronald could sigh for long, the carriage door was opened again and Hermione walked in decisively. Time is up. Immediately, she picked up Harry and Ronald, one in each hand, and then looked at Rhine. Rhine laughed awkwardly and walked out of the carriage without Hermione having to do anything. Then she heard the door being locked again. The three people outside the door looked at each other, and Rhine didn't dare to say anything. Rhine couldn't help but widen his eyes until the carriage door opened again and Hermione walked out. WTF. In just 3 minutes, Hermione seemed like a completely different person. The fluffy brown hair became much smoother, falling down smoothly like smooth satin, and was pinned with a bright orange hairpin. Even the front teeth that had been quite conspicuous before seemed to be a size smaller. Seeing Rhine's eyes widen, Hermione tried her best to control her expression and spoke quickly. Okay, let's go. Immediately, Hermione turned and pulled Rhine to the end of the carriage. She couldn't help but curl up the corners of her mouth into a smile. It's worth it that I practiced the spells to make my hair smooth and my teeth smaller at home, and the results seem to be quite good. As for why they had to do this, Mrs. Granger whispered a reminder in Hermione's ear before they got in the car. Hermione, have you seen those little witches? Some of them are dressed up in fancy clothes. Maybe there really is a prom. Hermione gripped Rhine's arm with more strength. If there was a prom, she didn't want Rhine to dance with other girls. At this time, the train had slowly stopped at a small, dark platform. The burly Hagrid was there, shouting at the freshmen. When Hagrid saw Rhine and the others getting off the train, a look of joy appeared on his face. Harry. And Rhine. Oh, you're together. So you're friends? Merlin, that's great. Well, I should have said a few more words to you, but not now. Freshmen, follow me. Then, Hagrid led the freshmen along the way just as it was written in the original book. After climbing a narrow mountain path, even Rhine, who had read the original book and knew what kind of scenery would follow, couldn't help but exclaim wow along with the freshmen. The Black Lake, the castle, and the moon appeared before our eyes. Hogwarts is in sight. At the same time, a line of information slowly appeared on the system screen. Congratulations on having traveled through the vast land and finally arrived at Kunlun Mountain, the ancestor of all mountains. The Yuxu Palace is already in sight. When the golden bell in Yuxu Palace rings, you will be considered to have truly joined the Chan sect and become a saint. You will receive endless benefits and great fortune. By then, the system will also be upgraded and the talent smelting function will be enabled. Please look forward to it. Chapter 38. Rhine's heart skipped a beat when he saw this message. When I received the Hogwarts admission letter, which the system called the qualification for admission to the Chan sect, the system began to bind. Now that I have officially arrived at Hogwarts, can the system still be upgraded? This trip to Hogwarts was really a good decision, otherwise I would have missed a great opportunity. At the same time, Rhine felt a sense of anticipation as he watched the system reveal the new features after the upgrade. The talent smelting function comes just in time. I now have more and more miscellaneous talents. Some are very useful, some are useless, and some are duplicated. Once the talent smelting function is enabled, perhaps we can find other uses for those useless or duplicate talents. Thinking of this, Rhine couldn't wait. If there weren't so many people here, he would have wanted to ride the owl sword directly to Hogwarts Castle. But now, we still have to follow the process. When freshmen go to Hogwarts for the first time, they still have to pass through the Black Lake as usual, but they don't have to do that in their second year. Rhine once wondered why the freshmen didn't follow the same path as the seniors. Why make a group of little wizards spend so much effort and time? But in the History of Magic textbook, Rhine saw the reason. This is because the original intention of the four founders to establish Hogwarts was to protect young wizards from the increasingly crazy witch hunts at that time. At that time, Hogwarts was not like it is now, and could only be entered and exited through this secret path. That is why the four founders cast a strong protective spell on this road. Any student who enters Hogwarts from this road can receive protection within Hogwarts, greatly reducing the chance of accidents. This protective spell is still effective today, so young wizards still have to retrace their path to school in order to obtain the protection of the founders. At the same time, this is why Hogwarts is known as the safest place in the wizarding world. Not only because Dumbledore is here, but also because the protective magic has been preserved here for generations. Otherwise, how could those students who were unfortunate enough to encounter the basilisk in the second year of the original book be so lucky that they didn't look directly into the basilisk's eyes and avoided immediate death? It's okay for one person to be lucky, but it really doesn't make sense for so many people to be lucky. Some of the courses at Hogwarts are indeed a bit outrageously dangerous, but over the years, although there have been cases of broken limbs, I have never heard of any deaths. This is because of the magical protection on this road. As long as students are not as unlucky as Myrtle, or they do not commit suicide, their safety is guaranteed within Hogwarts. Thoughts flashed through his mind, but Rhine did not stop moving, and brought Hermione, Harry, and Ronald to an empty boat. Soon, the boat was moving forward across the mirror-like lake. Everyone was silent, staring at the huge castle that reached into the sky. As they approached the cliff on which the castle stood, it seemed to tower over them. "Look down!" Following Hagrid's classic shout in the original book, we passed through the ivy curtain covering the cliff, passed through the dark tunnel under the castle, crossed the underground dock, and finally climbed onto a ground covered with gravel and pebbles. This long journey made the little wizards terrified. After all, the Black Lake is bottomless. When staring into it, one can't help but feel that there are many eyes watching from below. After getting off the boat, the little wizards rushed away from the Black Lake. Only Rhine had a strange look in his eyes, even a bit of surprise, and turned his head to look at Black Lake reluctantly. Just now, information was refreshed on the system screen. Yugzu Palace is located in Kunlun Mountain, the ancestor of all mountains and the origin of dragon veins. You passed by a large lake at the foot of the mountain and found that there were dragons in the lake, and a dragon palace was built at the bottom of the lake. The dragon clan has always had many treasures and a long history. They are in charge of creating clouds and rain. Even after the conferred god tribulation and during the journey to the west, the dragon clan was still spread across the rivers, lakes, and seas. It will be of great benefit to you to make friends with the master of the dragon palace at the bottom of the lake. If you make casual friends with the lord of the dragon palace, you will get the talent, dragons bring you spirituality. The dragon clan controls the clouds and rain, and controls the water veins of the world. You can draw spiritual energy from the water veins. With this talent, you can get spiritual energy in places with strong water veins. This talent is more effective when combined with eating wind and drinking dew, sun essence, and moon essence. If you become friends with the Lord of the Dragon Palace, you will gain the talent, water control. Controlling water will become your instinct, and ordinary water spells will be at your fingertips. A life and death friendship with the Lord of the Dragon Palace can grant you the magical power of calling the wind and rain. Changing the celestial phenomena, controlling the wind and rain, a thought can bring down a rainstorm, a thought can bring down a torrential rain. It is a common but powerful magical power. Rhine took a deep breath. The creatures under the Black Lake were recognized by the system as dragons, and they should be the mermaids that appeared in the original novel. There are benefits to making connections with mer people, which is definitely a bonus. Not to mention the rewards that would come later, just the reward for being an acquaintance was enough to make Rhine determined to get it. The presence of a dragon brings spiritual power, and the ability to draw spiritual energy from water veins is exactly the talent that Rhine urgently needs. Looks like I need to go to Black Lake sometime. However, at this moment, the most important thing for Rhine is to participate in the sorting ceremony and complete the system upgrade. At this time, Hagrid had brought them to the castle gate, raised a huge fist, and knocked on the castle gate 3 times. Rhine's heart skipped a beat. Does this count as the ringing of the golden bell? But no prompt appeared on the system screen, so Rhine had no choice but to follow the crowd and continue walking inside. Next, Professor McGonagall introduced that ghosts appeared and classic scenes from the original novel emerged one after another. Until the little wizards entered the hall in a single file, the Sorting Hat appeared and sang the song it had made up out of boredom. The other young wizards were both excited and nervous, while Rhine clenched his palms slightly. But he was not nervous because of the sorting, but until now, he had clearly entered Hogwarts Castle, so why didn't the system give any prompt? Doesn't Hagrid's knocking on the door count as a golden bell? Professor McGonagall's classic speech doesn't count either. How come the Sorting Hat singing doesn't count? In Rhine's estimation, he thought the Sorting Hat was the golden bell determined by the system, but after the Sorting Hat finished singing the song, the system did not respond. So what exactly does it take for the golden bell to ring? Is there a bug in the system again? Just as Rhine's heart slowly sank and he was prepared for the system to go awry, Professor McGonagall took a few steps forward with a roll of parchment in his hand. Whoever's name I call now, put on your hat, sit on the stool, and wait for the sorting. Hannah Abbott. The moment the name sounded, Rhine seemed to hear a clear bell in his ears. The system light curtain suddenly refreshed. The golden bell in Yugzu Palace rings, and from now on, I am a disciple of the Chan Sect. Congratulations to the host for officially becoming a disciple of the Chan Sect. Chapter 39. There came the sound of a golden bell ringing in his ears, which only he could hear. The system screen in front of him began to refresh, and Rhine could hardly hold back. Nima. So this Hannah Abbott is the golden bell in the system's judgment. But after a moment, Rhine thought about it and felt that it seemed to make some sense. After all, the world of Harry Potter may change, but Hannah Abbott remains the same. But no matter what, the system is still as blind as ever, which makes Rhine feel relieved. At this time, after the message congratulating Rhine appeared, a large amount of information began to flow across the system screen. The initiation ceremony is in progress, the saint is looking down from afar, the system needs to be temporarily hidden while the upgrade is completed. The host is requested to deal with it on his own. Immediately, the system light curtain entered a flickering state. Rhine was fine with the system hiding, after all, the talent he had acquired was still there, and the sorting ceremony in Harry Potter was not a sea of fire and swords, so there was no danger at all. In comparison, he was somewhat interested in the saint mentioned by the system. He had seen Voldemort before, but the system mistook Voldemort for Duobeo Taoist. Although Duobeo Taoist is the eldest brother of Jijiao and also a top-level existence in the primordial conferred gods, and can use the Zuxian formation diagram and the 4 Zuxian swords to set up the Zuxian sword formation on behalf of Tongtian Sect Master, he is not a saint after all. This slight difference is a world of difference. Although the system is blind, Rhine has seen it so many times that he feels that there is still some logic in the system's judgment. Voldemort is already the top existence among Harry Potter, but the system still does not recognize him as a saint. It is hard to say who is stronger between Dumbledore and Voldemort, but it is certain that the gap is not big, and the system will definitely not recognize him as a saint. Rhine estimated that it was most likely the most senior disciple of the Chan sect, who was comparable to Duobeo Taoist, Nanji Xianwing. So, who is the saint? The 4 founders of Hogwarts, or something even older? Is it related to ancient magic? Rhine gently stroked the staff in his hand, his eyes narrowed slightly, and a thoughtful look flashed across his face. The waters in the magical world are quite deep. However, judging from the original work, even the subsequent war in the wizarding world did not inspire anything more extraordinary. It seems that it is not so easy to get in touch with things at the saint level. At least if you don't do anything stupid, you don't have to think about these things. The thoughts in his mind gradually calmed down, and Rhine returned his attention to the Hogwarts Great Hall. After all, the Hogwarts sorting ceremony only happens once in a lifetime, and Rhine doesn't want to miss any exciting moments. Professor McGonagall was still calling names. Susan Bones. Hufflepuff. A little girl put down the sorting hat and walked towards the Hufflepuff table. Almost all the professors looked at her with gentle eyes. Professor Sprout, Dean of Hufflepuff, led the enthusiastic applause. Rhine understood that this was brought about by the name Bones. This family can be said to be full of loyal warriors. Even though most of the members are Hufflepuffs, they still showed the courage to fight against Voldemort and the Death Eaters, and even caused Voldemort to take action himself to kill the Bones couple. In the original book, in 1995, a Death Eater escaped from prison and could not forget his old grudge, so he brutally killed Susan Bones' uncle, aunt, and several cousins. Thinking of this, Rhine showed some sympathy in his eyes. Then, one by one, the people Rhine remembered were sorted into different houses. Ronald Gryffindor. Seamus Finnegan, the famous blaster. The sorting hat hesitated for a full minute on his head, as if thinking about where to send him so that he could display his talents. As expected, he was finally sent to Gryffindor, which was famous for its adventurous nature. Explosions, adventure, recklessness, and everything else go best together. Finally, there was movement from the people around Rhine. Hermione Granger. In the original novel, Hermione's sorting is only briefly mentioned, but in fact, whether it is J.K. Rowling's description or the subsequent supplements in the original novel, it shows that Hermione is actually also a difficult house sorting. The sorting hat hesitated on top of her head for at least 5 minutes, wavering between Gryffindor and Ravenclaw. In the end, I felt that Hermione's bravery was more prominent than her passion for knowledge, so I sorted her into Gryffindor. There is no need to elaborate on the process of Harry's sorting. It was the biggest commotion since the sorting, and the cheers it caused seemed to be about to blow the ceiling of the auditorium off. And after Harry, there were only 4 people left. Rhine and Ronald are included. The next person to be called up was Rhine. Rhine Snow. When this name appeared in the hall, it immediately caused shock among the freshmen from Muggle families. Almost as loud as the discussion that broke out when Harry Potter was sorted. Rhine Snow. Oh my god, is it the famous Rhine Snow, the one the Queen called the Pearl of British literature? My god, when I was in school, our teacher forced us to recite his anthology every day. Now you tell me, Rhine Snow has also come to Hogwarts. Which house will Rhine be assigned to? Is there any need to think about this? Ravenclaw has one more literary master. Gilderoy Lockhart is a Ravenclaw. Now it seems that Ravenclaw will have another literary master. Hearing the noise, Dumbledore, Professor McGonagall, and others looked at each other in bewilderment. They had never expected that a little Muggle-born wizard could cause such a commotion. At this moment, Rhine stepped forward, took the Sorting Hat and put it on his head. The voice of the Sorting Hat immediately rang in my mind. Oh, it seems like this is another young wizard who was famous before entering school. Let me see, it's complicated, quite complicated. You have a smart mind and amazing learning and comprehension abilities, but I heard those little wizards say that you are a literary genius. Also, Gilderoy Lockhart has become a literary giant. There was obvious confusion in the Sorting Hat's voice. That's strange. I clearly feel that neither of you has any potential in literature. Lockhart should be very accomplished in the Oblivion spell and be able to become a leading scholar of the Oblivion spell. Well, it seems everyone has their own destiny. As for you, although you are very talented and suitable for Ravenclaw, you don't actually have that much desire for knowledge. Ravenclaw is not suitable for you. You love making friends, are reliable, and supportive of your friends, which is very much in line with the Hufflepuff style. But Hufflepuffs are all honest and hard-working people. You seem to be quite cunning. As for hard-working, never mind. I don't think you can match that. That leaves Gryffindor and Slytherin. Although I already have the answer in mind, I still have to ask you a question. If you were sorted into Slytherin, what would you do? Rhine smiled slightly and responded to the Sorting Hat's question in his mind. Of course, it is to make more friends, to have more friends and fewer enemies. Those who are willing to make friends with me are my friends. Those who are unwilling to make friends with me and are against me, in order to prevent them from going astray, I have to take the responsibility of supervising them, hanging them up and beating them, 3 times a day. Let me go to Slytherin and make sure that the unhealthy trends left by the you-know-who are eradicated and that the wizarding world be clear and honest again. Rhine resounded in my mind, and the Sorting Hat fell silent. Yes, they are very similar. The things you say and do are very much like a little wizard back then. He was very friendly and charming, and he did unite the Slytherin wizards, but what happened later was really regrettable. In light of past experience, and your friend Harry, Hermione's private request to me, saying that she hopes to be assigned to the same house as you, A&D. Mr. Draco Malfoy firmly told me that he would never be in the same house with you, otherwise he would commit suicide. I think this outcome is good for everyone. The Sorting Hat loudly announced the Rhine house results. Gryffindor. The moment the result came out, Harry stood up and applauded excitedly. Hermione breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that it seemed that her promise to deliver cleaning agent to the Sorting Hat was not in vain. Rhine also smiled and walked down slowly. Before his eyes, the flickering light gradually solidified. Congratulations to the host for officially joining the Chan sect and becoming a disciple of Yuan Shi Tianzun. System upgrade completed, talent smelting function has been enabled. Chapter 40. Rhine took a deep breath and slowly let go of the tension in his heart. Done. He looked towards the light screen, and his current information also jumped into his eyes. Current connections: Uncle Wang Bigan, friend of life and death; Young Deng Chanyu, friend of life and death; Ling He, close friend; Weapon Refining Sect Leader, close friend; Beast Taming Sect Leader, close friend; Young Neza, close friend; Young Lei Zhenzi, close friend; Yuan Hong, casual acquaintance; Long-Ear Ding Guangxian, casual acquaintance. Current enemies: Duobao Taoist, fighting to the death; Xiao Sheng, Cao Bao, extremely jealous; Chong Hai Hu, extremely jealous. Current rewards: 5 color light stone cultivation method, 7 aperture exquisite heart, copper skin and iron bones, fire control, metallurgy and silver refining, affinity with spirit beasts, spirit beast cultivation, skilled martial arts, night vision, wind control, natural power, lotus body protection, flying in the sky, flying wind, fluttering wings, double axes, flying tiger tactics. Hidden energy and concealed machine have not been claimed yet. Looking at the numerous connections and rewards, Rhine felt a sense of satisfaction like a hamster hoarding resources. But problems also arise. He has just entered school and he already has so much talent. After a while, if I make a few more connections at Hogwarts, even if there are at least hundreds of talents, I am afraid I can't even remember them. Various talents may be shelved or duplicated, which is a waste. Fortunately, there is the talent smelting function that is enabled after the system upgrade. A furnace pattern emerged below the light curtain. When his eyes fell on it, Rhine got the hint. You can use the talent smelting function to refine unnecessary talents into Deo Rhyme, and use Deo Rhyme to improve other talents. You can also refine talents with similar functions into one. The most powerful talent will be retained and a breakthrough may occur. Rhine pondered for a moment. This is easy to understand. Completely useless talents can be disassembled directly and used to develop other talents. Duplicate talents can be melted into one, making the system light screen simple while also making it possible for the strongest talent to have a breakthrough. This thing looks familiar. Isn't this just material decomposition and breaking limits? System, are you playing Magia games too? However, no matter where the system learned this function from, it is still quite useful for Rhine. His main strength now comes from a few talents, especially the Iron Skin and Bone talent, which is both offensive and defensive, and is the most practical one Rhine has. Some useless talents can be smelted to develop strong bones and strong muscles. In this way, his strength can soar even more. Or you can improve your talents that can gain spiritual energy, such as eating wind and drinking dew, which is also a very cost-effective investment in the long run. Just as Rhine was pondering the new functions of the system, the sorting ceremony finally ended. Dumbledore stood up, looked at the students with a smile on his face, and opened his arms to them. It seemed that nothing made him happier than seeing students gathered together. Welcome everyone to Hogwarts to start the new school year. Before the banquet begins, I would like to say a few words. That is idiot. Crybaby. Scum. Twist. As Dumbledore sat down, everyone applauded and cheered, and Rhine turned his attention away from the system. Because Harry on the side looked at him hesitantly and asked, "Is Dumbledore a bit mad?" Rhine shook his head. On the contrary, he sees it very clearly. Regarding Dumbledore's last words, idiot, scum, Rhine had a classic rumor in his previous life, which was that these words rearranged in Latin would be, Merlin bless you. But in fact, no matter how you arrange them, these words cannot form this sentence. What it really means is that the 4 colleges are biased against the other colleges. Ravenclaw thinks that people from other houses are idiots, Gryffindor thinks that people from other houses are crybaby cowards, Slytherin thinks that half-blood wizards are scum, and Hufflepuff thinks that people from other houses are too twisted. If they could understand what Dumbledore meant, perhaps every student would have some deeper reflection on their own character. Rhine whispered to Harry, Hermione and the others what this meant, and Hermione and the others were all stunned. Even the prefect Percy was stunned and said hesitantly, "Is that so? Then why didn't Dumbledore just say it?" Rhine shrugged. "Maybe I've taught too many students, and I know that some things won't be taken seriously even if you tell them directly, so you have to figure it out on your own." Just at this moment, a cry of surprise suddenly rang out. Everyone looked towards the faculty seats with astonishment and surprise in their eyes. Even Dumbledore looked surprised. Sybil. Sybil Trelawney, the divination professor at Hogwarts, stood up at this moment as if possessed, with a dazed look on her face. She swept her empty eyes over all the Hogwarts students, and then her hoarse voice echoed in the hall. "I saw. The era of the Big Four is passing, and a new Big Four is emerging. The ancient secrets will eventually come to light, and they will return." The next second, the confusion on Sybil Trelawney's face disappeared, and his face was filled with astonishment. "Why are you looking at me? I was distracted just now. What did I say?" A burst of laughter then broke out in the auditorium. Prefect Percy explained to the Gryffindor new students. "That's the divination professor. How should I put it? She's a bit of a ghost. Every year she predicts the death of students, but so far no one has died. Maybe she wants to leave an impression on the freshmen so that you can choose her divination class in your 3rd year." After these words were spoken, Harry, Hermione and the others suddenly realized. Hermione looked even more disgusted. She hated this kind of trickery the most. But in the faculty seats, some people's eyes became confused and uncertain. Dumbledore and Snape, they knew about the Trelawney prophecy. Trelawney is usually detached, but when he is in this dazed state, he may make some extremely shocking predictions. Even Voldemort, who was possessing Quirrell, was making a hissing sound in Quirrell's mind at this moment. He is also a victim of prophecy and has personally experienced the power of prophecy, so he naturally will not underestimate it. Understand this prophecy. The new Big Four, who is she referring to? Find them. Voldemort gave Quirrell an order. At this time, Rhine also showed a thoughtful look in his eyes. Sybil Trelawney, a descendant of the Trelawney family and the great-great-granddaughter of the famous prophet Cassandra Trelawney. His family history is so long that it can be traced back to ancient Greece. From that time on, this family possessed the extraordinary ability of prophecy, but was also cursed. Their predictions would never be believed by the world, and in the eyes of the world, they were just swindlers. Looking at the original Harry Potter novel, all of Trelawney's predictions actually came true one by one, with a very high degree of accuracy. But the original book does not mention that Trelawney would make such a prophecy on this occasion. Is it because of my influence? In the original book, there was a trio of Harry, Hermione, and Ronald. With my joining, there are now 4 of them. Are the new Big Four related to me? What is the ancient secret? All kinds of doubts filled Rhine's mind, but he quickly suppressed them. Let's make the best of it. God knows when Trelawney's prophecy will come true, maybe many years later. By that time, it is possible that he would have already set up his Zuxian formation. Return from ancient times? It's fine if you have good intentions, but if you have ill intentions towards me, I will scatter your ashes with the Zuxian sword formation. After this accident, no other incidents occurred. Just like in the novel, after the banquet, Dumbledore raised some points that could be called a sting operation. Then after the school song chorus, the freshmen were finally allowed to go to their dormitories. Rhine, Harry, Ronald, Neville, and Seamus lived in the same dormitory. The others were so sleepy that they changed into pajamas and fell asleep. After a while, the whole dormitory fell silent except for Harry, who seemed to have a nightmare and frowned and hummed from time to time. Rhine's eyes were still bright. Then, next up is the harvest time. Born with divine power, Lotus protecting the body, flying in the sky and dancing with the wind, flapping wings and thunder, double axes in a row, flying tiger tactics, hiding one's energy and concealing one's intentions. System, give me all of them. Chapter 41. As Rhine whispered in his mind, new talents appeared one after another in the reward column on the system screen. At this moment, all of Rhine's bones and flesh made waves-like sounds, as if there was power filling them and washing over his body like a tide. He subconsciously clenched his fist, and with a slight clench, a low muffled sound rang out in the air. Rhine took a deep breath and felt a tremendous force surging in his body, as if it could split the oceans and hold up the mountains. Of course, he also understood that this was just an illusion caused by the sudden increase in strength in a short period of time. His previous talent of iron skin and bones allowed his physical strength to reach a level that ordinary people could not understand, but this talent was mainly used to enhance defense, and the improvement in strength was incidental. But now, due to the natural gift of divine power that he received from Harry, Rhine's physical strength was skyrocketing. He conservatively estimated that in such a short period of time, his physical strength increased by 3 times. Before, he could tear tigers, leopards, bears and bears apart with his bare hands, but now Rhine feels that even if a fire dragon is hit by his punch, it will not feel good at all. Rhine's iron skin and natural supernatural powers, both offensive and defensive, greatly enhance his strength. And this change is far from over. Rhine's spiritual changes were no less significant than his physical changes. The talent of Lotus body protection allowed Nezha to ignore all souls and spirit-related spells in the primordial conferred god. One can imagine how powerful he is in mental protection. Of course, this is also related to the fact that Nezha was resurrected from a lotus. This talent in Rhine's possession is naturally not as abnormal as Nezha's, but it is already far beyond imagination. If the previous iron skin and bones brought a sense of physical security, it seemed that almost nothing could destroy one's body. Now, with the Lotus body protection talent, Rhine feels spiritually safe. There is no means to spy on and influence your spirit. If Rhine had the Lotus body protection talent before, the Sorting Hat would not be able to see anything on Rhine, but only see nothing. Naturally, spells like Legilimency, Imperious, and even Stunning Spell, as well as the mental influence of Voldemort's Horcruxes, would be ineffective against Rhine. With both physical and mental protection, Rhine has no rivals in the magic world if we only talk about his defensive capabilities, not his offensive capabilities. His fault tolerance rate is maximized. Then, Rhine's eyes fell on the 2 talents he had obtained from Ronald, flying and dancing with the wind and thunder wings. The former allows him to have a bonus in the air that is not inferior to that on the ground, and the latter increases flying speed and increases control over wind and lightning. Rhine cannot test the flight-related stuff right now, but he felt the effect of his control over the wind immediately. As soon as he stretched out his hand, air surged around Rhine, as strong as a gale. This is much stronger than the wind-controlling talent obtained from Owl Roberts before. It is worthy of the talent of Lei Genzi, an aerial combat master rarely seen even among the gods in the ancient times. It's a pity that among the 4 colleges, only Ravenclaw lives in a high tower, otherwise Rhine could walk to the windowsill now and experience the feeling of the wind obeys my orders. If he were to use the same technique as the 5 colored stones to throw stones, relying on his talents of controlling the wind and flapping his wings, he would probably be able to throw the stone from Hogwarts Castle to the other side of the Black Tiger. In addition, the talents obtained from Malfoy and Peter Pettigrew also gave Rhine some unexpected surprises. For example, the talent of concealment was so effective that Rhine was quite surprised. Whether it was his test of physical strength or his test of the ability to control the wind, there were some movements. But the people in the dormitory were still sleeping soundly, without even turning over, as if they hadn't heard anything. Rhine also tried to walk out of the dormitory and into the common room and even the corridor outside. There were some senior Gryffindors and the Weasley brothers in the common room. It seemed that they couldn't resist the urge to go out at night on the first day of school, so they were discussing going on an adventure. But they completely ignored the deliberate concealment of Rhine's aura, as if Rhine had already merged into the environment. Even the portraits in the corridor showed no reaction when they saw Rhine walking past. Rhine's lips curled up into a smile. This talent, a magical skill of night travel. You can also use it to escape or ambush someone at a critical moment. If things go wrong, Voldemort or Dumbledore might get hurt. The most unexpected surprise for Rhine was the reward he got from Malfoy. There is no need to say much about the talent of Double Axe Chain. It only enhances the coordination of both hands, which is useless to Rhine. But the reward of Flying Tiger military strategy was beyond Rhine's expectations. It not only contains methods of training soldiers, but also methods of refining tiger and leopard pills, flying tiger armor, and flying tiger spear. Although these are the lowest level standard elixirs and equipment in the prehistoric world, any elixir or equipment with a name can beat these. But you can be dismissive in the wild, but this is the magical world. A tiger leopard pill can increase spiritual energy, physical body, and greatly enhance strength. If the potion master can refine this thing, who would dare to mess with them? There are also flying tiger armor and flying tiger spear. One can defend against spiritual attacks, the other can amplify spiritual power and emit spear light, which is equivalent to permanent armor protection and divine sword without shadow. Even a first-year wizard wearing this gear can defeat most Aurors. The key is that these pills and equipment refining materials are not that precious, and Rhine feels that he may not be unable to try to refine them. If it can really be refined, it will be very beneficial to him. However, this is not what Rhine values most. What surprised him most is that the Flying Tiger military strategy contains a set of simple training methods that are taught to the army. With this method, you can mobilize spiritual energy. This is the scarcest resource Rhine has. Relying solely on the talent of consuming wind and drinking dew to passively obtain spiritual energy from the heaven and earth is really not enough. However, there are methods to attract spiritual energy, even if it is only the most superficial kind, and the effect is definitely not comparable to before. Moreover, given the conditions in the magic world, if Rhine were really given skills such as the 8-9 profound arts and the great heavenly immortal art, he felt that he might not be able to practice them smoothly. On the contrary, this kind of simple technique is easier to practice. In this way, Rhine's physical body and magic strength can be improved faster under the nourishment of spiritual energy. Before obtaining the truly advanced methods of cultivation, this can be considered as laying a solid foundation. This harvest made Rhine look satisfied. His strength has improved a lot compared to before. However, looking at the dense information in the reward column, some of which were completely useless to him. Rhine's eyes fell on the talent smelting function that appeared after the system upgrade, and he showed a determined look. Simplify the complex and remove the dross. System, refine it for me immediately. Chapter 42. Above the system light curtain, the furnace pattern lights up. Rhine suddenly had a feeling that he could strip away the talent he had already acquired and throw it into the furnace. You can choose to discard it completely and transform it into nourishing the rest of your innate Deo rhyme. You can also choose to smelt multiple similar talents into a new talent. First, smelt away the talents that are of no use to me. Rhine took a quick glance and selected several talents. Getting the double axe chain from Malfoy is too useless, don't do it. He was skilled in martial arts, acquired from Hermione, and this talent had been very useful to Rhine before, allowing him to display his iron-skinned and strong character. But after this period of time, the learning, comprehension, and martial arts skills brought by the Seven Apertures Heart have been mastered by the Seven Apertures Heart and have no effect on Rhine. The same goes for the Mount Mastery talent. Rhine decisively melted down these talents. The next moment, the 3 talents slowly disappeared from the reward column, and the furnace pattern lit up. Then, several new lines of information appeared on the Rhine system screen. You are skilled in martial arts, proficient in mounts, and have a talent for double axe combos. Because the 3 talents are at a low level, you gain a ray of Taoism current Deo Rhyme quantity. One wisp. Rhine raised his eyebrows, looking thoughtful. These 3 talents combined together can only produce a trace of Deo Rhyme. In other words, not every talent can produce Deo Rhyme. The more extraordinary the talent, the more Deo Rhyme can be melted out. This makes sense. How can a talent like skilled in martial arts and double axe combo be compared with a copper-skinned and iron-boned person, innate divine power, and a heart with 7 orifices? It seems that in the future, in addition to the quantity of talents, we must also pay attention to the quality. We must not miss the opportunity to obtain extraordinary talents. Even if I can't use it, it's still worthwhile to use it to refine the Deo Rhyme. After the 3 completely useless talents disappeared, Rhine set his sights on several talents of similar nature. According to the system, if they are smelted together, it is possible to smelt out a more powerful talent. But no matter what, the original strongest talent will be preserved so as to avoid heavy losses. After Rhine pondered for a moment, his sights fell on the 3 talents of controlling the wind, dancing in the air, and flapping wings of wind and thunder. They are all related to speed, flight, and wind, and the flapping wind and thunder are undoubtedly the most powerful. Even if the smelting is not successful, the loss of the other 2 talents will not have a big impact and will hardly reduce Rhine's strength. But if Rhine can forge a stronger talent, he will definitely make a lot of money. Rhine made a decision immediately. Smelt the control of wind, flying in the sky and dancing with wind, flapping wings, and wind and thunder. In the reward column, these 3 talents instantly became blurred. The furnace became brighter than before. After a moment, the 3 talents disappeared and were replaced by a new talent in the reward column. Control the wind and thunder. With a thought, the wind moves, and with a thought, thunder rises. The wind and thunder gather in your hands, and you can raise wind and thunder on the ground. If you are in the air or on a rainy day, you can even draw the power of wind and thunder above the 9 heavens, and your power will surge. Rhine took a deep breath and suddenly felt a qualitative change taking place. Previously, whether it was controlling the wind or flapping the wings of wind and thunder, they all relied on the wind in the air and were quite passive. But at this moment, this talent of controlling wind and thunder, the word control alone already shows its difference. He held out his left hand. Suddenly, a strong wind blew in the corridor. He stretched out his right hand again, and strands of fine electric light surrounded his palm, and the air was filled with a burnt smell after ionization. After a moment, Rhine stopped, his eyes bright. The 3 talents in exchange for the control of wind and thunder, the power has not decreased but increased. It is definitely a huge profit. The power of this talent is even greater than that of fire control. If he could get some spells related to wind and thunder, or if that was the next best thing, find a few spells related to wind and thunder, the power would definitely surpass the copycat version of Vulcan clearing the way that he had cast before. Especially if it was a rainy day, and he ran into Voldemort again on that day in Diagon Alley, Rhine would make sure he understood what it meant to shatter darkness with thunder. Then, having tasted the sweetness, Rhine looked at the reward column again. The talents of affinity with spirit beasts, cultivation of spirit beasts, and metallurgy and silver refining are somewhat overlapping with the ability of the 7 aperture exquisite heart to know all things. System, refine these 4 talents for me. The next moment, these 4 talents all blurred. The furnace above the light curtain emitted light again. Then, the 3 talents of affinity with spirit beasts, cultivation of spirit beasts, and metallurgy and silver refining disappeared, leaving only the 7 orifice exquisite heart. Rhine's expression darkened. FK, failed. This will still be a loss for him, and alchemy and the breeding of magical animals will be affected. But soon, Rhine's eyes showed surprise when he saw that there was some more information in the description behind the 7 apertures heart talent. 7 aperture exquisite mind. Knowing everything, studying its essence. melting the blood and sweat of the beast-taming sect and the weapon-refining sect, especially outstanding in these two ways. Rhine felt relieved immediately. Fortunately, although no talents stronger than the 7-aperture exquisite heart were born, those talents were completely absorbed by the 7-aperture exquisite heart during the smelting process, so they did not disappear in vain and can still shine on himself. At this moment, Rhine's eyes once again swept across the much simpler reward column. The talent of controlling fire as he wishes is related to Rhine's own version of fire God's way, and is also crucial to subjects such as potions and alchemy, so it has to be retained for now. The 3 talents of concealment, night vision, and eating wind and drinking do have no counterparts and are temporarily irreplaceable. His outstanding talent in chess might be useful in social situations, but he has no peers. He also estimates that he doesn't have much rhyme in smelting, so Rhine plans to keep it. The 5-colored lightstone cultivation method and the flying tiger military strategy are not talents, but cultivation methods, and they simply cannot be smelted. What's left at the end is skin of steel, bones of iron, innate divine power and the protection of the lotus. Looking at these 3 talents, Rhine's eyes showed a conflicted look. One is to enhance physical defense, one is to enhance physical strength, and one is to protect the soul. Rhine feels that if these 3 talents are melted, perhaps a super talent that integrates the essence of the 3 can emerge, which is definitely a win-win. But if there is a loss, no matter which one is lost, Rhine will feel sad. After struggling for a long time, Rhine made up his mind. No matter how much the loss is, it's enough to deal with the first few years of Hogwarts. There are even other ways to replace lost talent effects. Armor charm and occlumency can be used as a makeshift. But if we can really forge a stronger talent, that would be a qualitative change. Under normal circumstances, if we want to get a talent that is compatible with these 3 and has an even stronger effect, we don't know how long we have to wait. Let's bet. Immediately, Rhine gritted his teeth. System, give me a body of copper and iron, innate divine power, and a lotus to protect my body. As soon as the words fell, the 3 talents blurred at the same time. At the same time, an unprecedentedly bright light suddenly burst out on the furnace pattern. This time, Rhine waited for a full 5 minutes. 5 minutes seemed to him like every second was extremely long. Finally, a dazzling golden light flashed above the furnace pattern. Immediately, a new talent appeared in the reward column. Rhine stared at the new talent and held his breath. When he saw the name and description of the talent, Rhine's mind went blank for a moment. This is... Chapter 43. At this moment, this line of information appeared in front of Rhine. Achieve the Vajra body, which is not dim. This is a unique ability of those who have achieved sainthood in the flesh. The internal calamities of the 3 realms and 6 paths will not increase, and you will not fall into the cycle of reincarnation. Although your cultivation is shallow, you have this talent, which can be regarded as a great fortune. One of the innate characteristics of this talent is that the body is like a diamond, and the body is immortal. It can resist spiritual fire, spiritual weapons, and is not afraid of external evil. It can extend life by 1,000 years. The second characteristic of this talent is that the mind is clear and bright, not faint or broken, and not affected by disasters. It can resist many magic ways to capture the soul, and the inner demons will not arise. The third of these innate characteristics, resistance to disasters and killing. If you truly achieve sainthood in the flesh, you can jump out of the 3 realms and never have to suffer from disasters. Even if your cultivation is shallow, you can still resist a killing calamity every 3 years. Even though Rhine possessed great concentration and mental strength, he was stunned for a while when he saw this talent. When Rhine reacted, he couldn't help but clench his fist and wave it violently to vent his excitement. This wave of huge profits, it's crazy. The so-called sanctification of the physical body means that without being included in the list of conferred gods, one can cultivate one's own physical body to the point of being reborn and ranked among the immortals. Throughout the entire prehistoric calamity of conferring the gods, there were only 7 people who were able to finally cultivate their physical bodies and become saints. Although it is still insignificant compared to a saint, but to be associated with the word saint is already extraordinary. At this moment, Rhine also felt the power of this talent. Even though he had lost his 3 gifts, namely, skin of steel, natural strength, and the protection of the lotus, Rhine felt that both his body and mind were undergoing a complete transformation. There was a tremendous heat current surging in his body, in his flesh, blood, and bones. The strength of his physical body has surpassed that of his previous divine power, and it is still increasing rapidly. His spirit was also growing rapidly and becoming extremely clear. Those who have become saints in the flesh will not suffer from disasters, and their souls will not fall into reincarnation. This mental defense is even more powerful than when the lotus is protecting the body. When the transformation was finally over, Rhine suddenly opened his eyes, and a divine light flashed in his eyes, and the night corridor was illuminated for a moment. He stretched out his hand and saw a golden light surging on his skin. It was similar to the previous copper skin and iron-boned light, but it was much richer and seemed to be at a much higher level. Just by looking at this golden light, Rhine seemed to have a feeling of immortality, as if nothing in the world could affect him. When he had skin and bones of steel, Rhine was invulnerable to swords and guns, and immune to water and fire. In the Harry Potter world, he could directly withstand ordinary attack spells. But if it encounters powerful alchemical items or powerful black magic, it will still be damaged. As for the killing curse and the eye of the 1,000-year-old basilisk, even if one has skin of steel and bones, once hit, the hope of survival is slim. But now, after achieving the Vajra body, Rhine's defense has directly risen to a new dimension. The body is like a diamond, no disaster can come to you. His eyes showed eagerness to try. The fire is blazing. A ball of flame gathered in front of him, and with his talent for controlling fire, it condensed into a blazing white fireball. Previously, when Rhine faced this condensed fire curse, he felt threatened and hurt even though he had skin and bones of steel. But now, Rhine waved his staff, and the fireball flew directly towards Rhine. But in the next second, a golden light flowed around Rhine, making him look like a diamond, immortal and indestructible. Even a fire spell of this level couldn't hurt Rhine at all. Rhine showed a look of joy. With this kind of defense, I'm afraid it can resist even the dark magic like the shadowless divine sharpness and the fierce fire. However, what made Rhine most happy was the ability of this talent to resist a fatal disaster every 3 years. After all, the most perverted thing in the Harry Potter world is the killing curse. It's really unreasonable that such an instant death spell is so common that every Death Eater can throw a green light with his hands. No matter how high Rhine's resistance was to ordinary spells, he couldn't guarantee that he could withstand this kind of spell with an instant death effect. But now, having obtained the talent of Vajra body, he can definitely resist a killing calamity every 3 years. With golden light flowing on his body, Rhine suddenly felt that his safety had reached a new level. Even if I stare into the eyes of a 1,000-year-old basilisk, or get hit by a killing curse, I won't die. This life-saving ability has definitely increased significantly. It can even extend 1,000 years of life. Oh my god, if Voldemort knew, he would probably just throw away all his Horcruxes as junk. But after the excitement, Rhine took a deep breath and calmed down from the joy of obtaining this powerful talent. Stay steady, you still have to stay steady, don't waste time. It takes 3 years to resist one killing calamity. What if there are multiple killing calamities in a short period of time and you are hit by multiple death curses? You may still die. You can't rely on this talent to act recklessly. Before you truly have overwhelming strength, you still have to be low-key, be kind to others, make more friends and fewer enemies. At this point, the Rhine system reward column has become much cleaner than before, compared to its bloated and complicated appearance. 4 main talents: achieve the Vajra body, control the wind and thunder, control fire as you will, and the 7 aperture exquisite mind. There are also several auxiliary talents: night vision, hidden aura, eating wind and drinking dew, chess excellence and 2 methods, 5 color light stone cultivation method, flying tiger military method. In addition to this, there is an additional piece of information that emerged after the previous talent was refined: Tao Rhyme. Looking at the trace of Taoism he possessed, Rhine pondered for a moment. Can I use the Dao Yun to continue strengthening and achieving the Vajra body without fainting? As soon as he thought about it, the system gave feedback. At least 100 strands of Dao Rhyme are needed to make this talent produce visible changes, but the current Dao Rhyme is too little. Rhine tried the main talents again and found that these talents were of relatively high levels. Even if it is a relatively low-level fire control Rui, it will take at least 10 strands of Dao Rhyme to improve. He shook his head. The number of Dao Yun is too small. It seems that I can only improve auxiliary talents for now. After a moment, Rhine had no more hesitation and directly used this trace of Tao Rhyme on his talent of eating wind and drinking dew. This talent is currently an important means for him to obtain spiritual energy, and it will definitely be worthwhile to use Dao Yun on it. As the amount of Dao Yun returned to 0, some more information appeared in the description of the talent of eating wind and drinking dew. You are quite experienced in eating wind and drinking dew, and the amount of spiritual energy you get from wind and dew has increased. There is a slight chance to collect the spiritual energy of different species hanging from the 9 heavens. Rhine nodded in satisfaction. When I find a chance to fly near Hogwarts, I will try to see how much stronger I can become by eating wind and drinking dew. No one knows what effect the strange spiritual energy descending from the sky will have. As for now, I have been out long enough, so I should go back to the dormitory. But just as Rhine turned to leave, an excited cat's cry came from the end of the corridor. Chapter 44. Following the excited cat cry, a thin shadow appeared in Rhine's sight. It was an unpleasant-looking cat, with bulging eyes like light bulbs, a skinny body and dark grey fur. Rhine's heart moved, and the name of the cat appeared in his mind. Mrs. Norris, Keeper Filch's pet. There were cats in many schools in my previous life. These cats were often loved by many students and some even became school pets. Madame Clarissa did not receive such treatment at Hogwarts. Its appearance is far from cute. The most important thing is that it often patrols alone like its owner. Once it finds that one of the little wizards has crossed the line and violated the school rules, it will immediately call Filch excitedly. Therefore, the students of Hogwarts hated it to the core, and many of them even wanted to kick Mrs. Norris hard. At this time, seeing Rhine still in the corridor late at night, Mrs. Norris's screams became more excited and shrill. Rhine, who possesses a mind as sharp as 7 orifices, could tell that it was speaking in a hoarse voice. The little wizard violated school rules. Got you. Rhine raised an eyebrow. It seems that after I obtained the talent of Vatra body, I made a lot of noise. His talent for concealing his presence and intentions couldn't be concealed, so he attracted the cat. But Rhine had nothing to be afraid of. Although this cat is intelligent, it is not an animagus. Even if Filch came, Rhine had 100 ways to knock them out so that they couldn't even see themselves. But the next moment, an idea came to Rhine's mind. After activating the talent refining function, his originally abundant number of talents is now a little stretched, and he basically has no spare talents to use to refine Deo Rhyme. Especially those extremely high-level talents, which are of great use to Rhine, and none of them can be touched. It is imperative to continue to build connections and acquire talents. If you want to acquire high-level talents, making friends with professors is naturally the best choice. Rhine remembered that in the plot, the first class for Gryffindor was Transfiguration, and the lecturer was Professor McGonagall, the head of Gryffindor. Professor McGonagall is extraordinary in both status and ability. If he could become an acquaintance or even a close friend with her, the talent he would gain would definitely surprise Rhine. Just wanting to make friends with the professor is not that easy. Although professors care about their students, this is where the problem lies. There are new students enrolled every year. The professors have been in Hogwarts for so many years that they are probably used to seeing new students. Although he cares about the situation, how can the professor really establish connections with the little wizard? It would be nice to have a casual acquaintance when you graduate. But there was a hint of surprise in Rhine's eyes. He admitted that it was difficult to make friends with other professors. But making friends with Professor McGonagall might not be as difficult as he imagined. Not because Professor McGonagall is the head of Gryffindor, but this one seems to have a habit of turning into an animagus when teaching the first class to freshmen, and was nicknamed Big Cat Girl by some HP fans in her previous life. When Professor McGonagall casts animagus in front of other young wizards, they will naturally scream in surprise. But as luck would have it, Rhine really had a natural advantage in making friends with animals, spiritual beasts, and the like. The 7 Aperture Exquisite Heart has absorbed all the talents from the beast-taming sect, such as affinity with spirit beasts and training of spirit beasts. If Professor McGonagall was in human form, then Rhine could only obediently build a closer relationship with him little by little. But if she turned into a cat? Do you understand the value of the Hongwong beast-taming sect? But to be on the safe side, Rhine thought he should try it first. Mrs. Norris in front of us is a test subject. When Mrs. Norris was shouting excitedly at the top of her lungs and was about to find Filch to arrest Rhine, Rhine just hooked his finger. Cat, come here. Mrs. Norris was stunned for a moment. She didn't expect that Rhine could speak cat language. When did stupid humans learn the noble cat language? Even Dumbledore doesn't know how to do it. Then, Mrs. Norris felt a sense of affinity from Rhine. Why does this human have such a nice smell? Meow. By the time Mrs. Norris reacted, it had already unknowingly come to Rhine's feet and was rubbing its cheek against the hem of Rhine's wizard robe. How could I do such a thing? This is a Gryffindor who violated the school rules. I want to arrest him. But before Mrs. Norris could wake up, Rhine started tickling her chin with his fingers, petting her like a cat. In an instant, Mrs. Norris' pupils dilated. What's this? Not good, very not good. It's so comfortable. Her mind was in a daze. Rhine stroked Mrs. Norris until she felt dizzy and fainted, until she lay on the ground with her belly turned over. A tractor-like snoring sound expressing pleasure came from her throat. Rhine raised a smile and continued to ask Mrs. Norris. Have you ever seen any other cats in the castle? Have you ever seen a cat with patterns around its eyes that look like glasses? Mrs. Norris snored intermittently. Human, while petting me, are you still thinking about other cats? Okay, don't stop. Yes, I have seen the cat you mentioned several times. That damn cat even stole my catnip once. A strange look appeared in Rhine's eyes. Oh. It likes catnip, right? Do you like it too? You also like the taste of Polygonum multiflorum? Yes, cats should all like these things. The talent for cultivating spirit beasts was absorbed by the 7-aperture exquisite heart and is still taking effect. At this moment, Rhine had an intuition. Catnip and Polygonum aviculare powder are mixed in a specific ratio, and combined with several plants from the grass outside Hogwarts Castle, a scent that is good for cats but will also make them extremely addicted and forgetful can be created. When this thought came to his mind, Rhine's smile became even brighter. Professor McGonagall, how can I not prepare a gift for you on your first day of class? Immediately, Rhine thanked Mrs. Norris. To show our gratitude, please be the first to try this flavor, Mrs. Norris. 10 minutes later. Filch was patrolling in the castle when he suddenly heard a very special cry from Mrs. Norris. His heart tightened, thinking that some night-walking students had attacked Mrs. Norris, so he ran over in a hurry. But when he ran over, he saw from afar Mrs. Norris rolling over with her belly exposed in front of a student whose face he couldn't see clearly, looking extremely intimate and flattering. Even closer to Filch than Mrs. Norris was to him. Suddenly, Filch was struck by lightning, his steps paused, and his face was full of despair. How so? Mrs. Norris has never done this to me before. I was here first. Chapter 45. After the initial surprise and jealousy, Filch was left with only anger. A little wizard not only violated school rules by going out for a night stroll, but also dared to do something to his cat. He strode towards Rhine and shouted angrily. Let go of my cat. If you dare to do anything to it, I will never let you go. As Filch strode towards him, a hint of impatience flashed across Rhine's eyes. He was not like the delicate freshman at Hogwarts who could only run away when facing Filch. He had the power and means to make Filch forget what he had seen and heard tonight. But just when Rhine was about to take action, a line of information appeared on the system screen in front of him. You were touring Yuxu Palace and were playing with the spirit beast in the palace when the gatekeeper boy looked at you unkindly. It turned out that the spirit beast was his beloved pet, so how could he let you play with it? Although the Yuxu Palace gatekeeper boy has no cultivation and is a nobody, he has stayed in the Yuxu Palace for a long time and can gain some benefits by making friends with him. Become a casual friend of the gatekeeper boy and you will gain a talent, sharp eyes and ears. As a gatekeeper boy, if you don't have good eyesight and good hearing, you will make a lot of mistakes when touring the area around Yuxu Palace. This talent can improve your eyesight and hearing. Become a close friend of the gatekeeper boy and you will gain a talent, a body like a crane. The Yuxu Palace is full of wonders of heaven and earth, and the Dao is natural. If you stay here for a long time, even if you don't have the talent for cultivation, you can practice to have a body like a crane. With this talent, you can have a light and agile body, reduce turbid air, and absorb spiritual energy more easily than ordinary people. If you make a life and death friendship with the gatekeeper boy, you will gain a talent, breathing and inhaling. Although the boy has no talent for cultivation, he has never slacked off in his practice, and has already mastered the breathing method. With this talent, you can increase the efficiency of breathing in and out of spirit energy during cultivation. Rhine, who was about to take action, suddenly paused, with a look of surprise in his eyes. Having read the original book, he of course knew that Filch was a squib and could not use magic. I thought the system wouldn't react, but I didn't expect that I could actually get a reward by making friends with him. Even though these rewards are not high-end, they are still quite practical. In particular, the two talents of close friendship and life and death friendship can help increase the efficiency of spiritual energy absorption. For Rhine now, it is more practical than those miraculous cultivation methods. After the improvement, the talent of eating wind and drinking dew, combined with the simple practice method in the Flying Tiger military strategy, if you add the talent of having a body like a crane and breathing out energy, the speed of obtaining spiritual energy should have a qualitative change compared to before. However, it is not easy to make friends with Filch. Filch was unable to use magic, but had to watch the little wizards using magic to play tricks in the castle every day. You can imagine how he felt. I practiced hard day and night and devoted all my spare time to it, but it still proved that I had no talent and was a dud. But those talented little wizards don't cherish this rare time of studying. Filch's attitude towards young wizards naturally became distorted, and he became a person hated by all the young wizards of the past. Befriend Filch? If other little wizards heard this, they would probably think it was a huge joke. But after a moment, Rhine had an idea in his mind. No matter how difficult a person is, he or she has things that he or she cares about the most. Filch is a lonely outlier who can only have cats as companions. Apart from his desire for magic, Mrs. Norris is everything to him. The easiest way to build a relationship with Filch is to start with Mrs. Norris. At this time, Filch had already walked up to Rhine in a menacing manner. He stared at Rhine. "Is it you? Ah, I remember you. I remember the faces of every little wizard, even if you have only been here for a day. Gryffindor, you are a Gryffindor. You dare to go out at night on your first day of school. I will tell Professor McGonagall and deduct points from your Gryffindor house. Now, give me my cat back." Filch attempts to take Mrs. Norris back from Rhine's arms. But Mrs. Norris took half a step back to avoid Filch's hand, and rubbed Rhine's hand a few more times. Filch's eyes almost popped out of his head. Rhine gently touched Mrs. Norris's head a few times, then looked at Filch with a serious and angry expression. "Are you the owner of this cat? How do you keep a cat? How did you raise this cat like this?" Filch was a little confused at this time. In the past, if I had come with such a fierce momentum, the little wizards would have fled or prepared to resist to the end. The little wizard in front of me is talking to me about raising a cat? This really confused him. But when it came to Mrs. Norris, Filch spoke up. "What happened to Mrs. Norris?" Rhine said unhappily. "They've all grown up like this, skinny as a stick. Can't you see? Severe malnutrition." What he said was not false. Mrs. Norris was in a very bad condition, and no one knew how Filch was taking care of her. But considering how stubborn Filch is, it's probably unrealistic to expect him to learn any knowledge about raising cats. He probably just raises them carelessly. Filch was panicking at this time. "Malnutrition? You are talking nonsense, it's just old." But after a moment, Filch's voice softened, with concern and struggle in his eyes. "What should we do then?" Rhine's eyes moved slightly, and then he spoke. "Remember, cats are pure carnivores. Although they occasionally take the initiative to eat some vegetables and like to eat breadcrumbs, the former is to clear the intestines, while the latter is purely greedy and is actually difficult to digest. So don't feed it bread or leftovers all day long. Feed it meat. The meat source cannot be a single source. There must be a variety of meats and offal. I have just felt its situation. I will give you a formula ratio. If you feed it according to this ratio, it will reach its proper weight after a period of time, and its fur color will be much brighter. Oh yes, the most important thing is this." Rhine carefully took out a ball the size of a fingernail, which seemed to be made from a mixture of various herbs. When Mrs. Norris saw the meatball, her eyes lit up and she looked obsessed. It was this smell that made Mrs. Norris infatuated. Rhine handed the meatball to Filch. "Scrape a little powder and mix it into every meal. It will be very good for the dog, making it more cheerful and prolonging its life. If you keep feeding it, it should be able to stay with you for a few more years. Since you remember me, come back to me when you're done. I'll try to get you some more." When Filch heard that this ball could allow Mrs. Norris to stay with him for a few more years, his eyes lit up and he put the ball away as if it were a treasure. But when he looked at Rhine, there was still confusion on his face. He harbored ill will towards the little wizard, and the little wizard had never been kind to him. He didn't understand why Rhine treated him like this. "Why?" Rhine smiled, teased Mrs. Norris again, and said to Filch. "No reason, cats are innocent. As long as you like cats, we are friends. If there's anything you don't understand, you can always ask me after class. Well, Mrs. Norris, go back to your master." Mrs. Norris rubbed Rhine's cheek reluctantly, then jumped into Filch's arms. Filch looked at Rhine, his expression no longer as fierce as before, but became much softer. You just arrived at Hogwarts, you must be lost. It doesn't count as a night walk. I won't tell Professor McGonagall. Also, you are a good kid, unlike those naughty Gryffindors, especially the Weasley brothers who love to play with dung bombs. You'd better not get too close to them. Those two red-haired boys are not good people. If you need to find something or a room in the castle, you can come to the administrator's office to find me. He paused and whispered. Don't let other little wizards see you, or they will exclude you. Soon, Filch carried Mrs. Norris away quickly. He couldn't wait to try the recipe Rhine gave him and give Mrs. Loris some good nourishment. On the light screen in front of Rhine's eyes, unexpected information appeared. You and the gatekeeper boy of Yugzu Palace have become close friends. You get a reward, the talent of sharp hearing and sharp eyes. You get a reward. The talent of a body like a crane. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes. I thought I could only be an acquaintance with Filch, but it turned out to be a close friendship. Is it so easy to advance the relationship with the ferocious Filch? After a moment, Rhine understood. Maybe it's because I've been an outcast all my life and it's too lonely. After all, Filch is just an old widower. Looking at the new rewards on the screen, Rhine's eyes showed anticipation. I already have night vision, and now I have the talent of sharp hearing and sharp eyes. If I collect a few more similar talents, will it be possible to forge the heavenly eye, the flaming eye, the golden pupil, the clairvoyance, the clairaudience, the like? But what Rhine is most looking forward to is tomorrow's transfiguration class. He took out another meatball from his arms, which was exactly the same as the one that had just made Mrs. Norris so fascinated. It just changed from the size of a fingernail to the size of a longan. Rhine's lips curled up into a smile. The cat that Professor McGonagall turned into is no ordinary cat. As a sign of respect, this amount should be enough, right? Chapter 46. Early the next morning, Harry, Ronald, and others who were half asleep were woken up by Rhine. Dude, we need to get up quickly, the first period is Professor McGonagall's class. You don't want to be late for the first class, do you? The next second, Harry and the others woke up instantly. When they saw Professor McGonagall yesterday, they realized that he must be an extremely strict professor. The key point is that Professor McGonagall is also the head of their Gryffindor house. If you are late for the first class, you will be in big trouble. A few minutes later, after hastily washing up, Harry, Ronald, Neville and Seamus followed Rhine through the common room to the corridor, looking for the stairs leading to the transfiguration classroom. But soon, despair appeared in their eyes. There are as many as 142 staircases in Hogwarts, and they are constantly changing. Even old students may get lost, let alone freshmen like them. Looking at the constantly moving stairs, Harry and the others were overwhelmed. At this time, what made them even paler was that Filch was guarding the stairs near Gryffindor. Ronald whispered. It's Filch, the castle keeper. When I was at home, I could hear Fred and George complaining about him every day, saying that he was the most annoying person in Hogwarts Castle and that he was always picking on the students. Do you know what the key is? If Fred and George had made up stories about other professors, my parents would have reprimanded them long ago, but when it came to Filch, they acquiesced. They actually acquiesced. It's over. He will definitely find fault with us. At this time, Rhine walked up to Filch with a smile and greeted him. Good morning, Mr. Filch. Filch paused and uttered something awkwardly. Good morning. Then he pointed to a staircase. The way to the transfiguration classroom is this way. Rhine's smile widened. In fact, with his memory, he had already memorized where each staircase led to and their changing patterns. I just didn't expect Filch to be waiting here so early in the morning. It looks like he's waiting for directions. Thank you, Mr. Filch. Rhine pulled Ronald and the others up the stairs that Filch pointed out. Ronald and the others were also a little bit unbelievable at this time. Filch showing us the way. Merlin, he didn't deliberately point us to the wrong way, so as to make us late. But while they were still wondering, the stairs had already brought them to the door of the transfiguration classroom. Rhine blinked. So, some things may be rumors. If you show more understanding and support for Mr. Filch's work and say hello to him, maybe he won't be so aloof. Ronald and the others seemed to understand, but soon their thoughts were drawn to another matter. There were many students gathered in front of the podium in the transfiguration classroom, all looking at a tabby cat on the podium. It's really beautiful. Is this the cat that lives in the castle? Rhine and the others also walked over and joined the crowd of onlookers. A message refreshed on the system screen in front of Rhine. The conferred god tribulation is about to begin. The golden immortals of the Chan sect in the Jade Void Palace have gathered together to preach to you, the new disciples, for 7 years. This is a rare opportunity in the prehistoric times. Please cherish it. You have come to the place where Taoist Sahang is giving a lecture. Taoist Sahang is well versed in the art of transforming Dharmakaya, and his cultivation is rare even among the golden immortals of the Chan sect. He is the person who has the best chance of killing the 3 corpses and becoming a quasi-saint. If you are lucky enough to make friends with Taoist Sahang, the benefits will be endless. By becoming casual friends with Taoist Sahang, you can obtain the gift, the transformation of all things. With this gift, you can see through the changes of yin and yang of all things, and have an amazing talent in the method of transformation. As long as you have enough cultivation, you can easily make all kinds of changes. Become a close friend of Taoist Sahang and you will receive a reward, the method of refining the pure colored glaze bottle. This bottle is an extremely powerful space-type magic weapon in the prehistoric world, with infinite uses. It can not only collect enemies into the bottle and refine them into blood water, but also hold water from the 3 rivers and 4 seas to condense immortal water, bringing the dead back to life. If you make a life and death friendship with Taoist Sahang, you will be rewarded with the ability to create an incarnation. With this ability, you can create countless incarnations, doubling your combat power. It is also very beneficial for cultivation. If you use this ability to the fullest, you can even create 3 corpses of your own body, helping you cross the threshold of a quasi-saint. Not many golden immortals of the Chan sect can practice this ability. Looking at this information, Rhine's eyes lit up. As expected of Professor McGonagall, he was judged to be at the level of the 12 golden immortals of the Chan school, and he was also the Taoist Master Sahang who was most proficient in the way of change among them. Speaking of Taoist Sahang, perhaps not many people know him. But after the calamity of the conferred gods, Taoist Sahang joined the Western religion, and his Buddhist name in the Western religion was the famous Guanyin Bodhisattva. Such people are top-notch among the golden immortals of the Chan sect. The generosity of the reward really made Rhine stunned. The reward for just being casual friends, the talent of creating all things, is probably only second to Rhine's attainment of the Vajra body. If I can obtain similar talents and smelt them in the future, I am afraid that I can create a talent even stronger than this. As for the method of refining the pure colored glass bottle and the magical power of incarnation, there is no need to say more. They are something that will make immortals and gods fight for them. Rhine looked at Professor McGonagall and took a deep breath. Professor McGonagall is my friend. At this time, some little wizards could not hold back and were eager to touch Professor McGonagall. But Professor McGonagall was prepared for this, and his majestic eyes directly shocked him. Some little wizards took out the leftover sausages from breakfast and tried to seduce Professor McGonagall. However, Professor McGonagall only gave this a look of dignity. Are you kidding me? A sausage wants to seduce her too? This year's Gryffindor class isn't that brave. Professor McGonagall remembered that there was once a daring student who tried to use catnip to pet a cat, and that time she almost made a fool of herself. From then on, every time Professor McGonagall played the animagus trick on freshmen, he would protect himself in advance before class. Whether it's catnip or polygonum multiflorum, it's better to take precautions before it happens. When the class bell rings later, Professor McGonagall will transform from an animagus into a human form and engrave the magical impression of transfiguration in the minds of the young wizards. She had even gone over the opening remarks for the class several times in her mind. But at this moment, Rhine said with fondness, "Kitten, so cute. Come, let me touch it." Immediately, Rhine slowly extended his hand towards Professor McGonagall. Professor McGonagall glared at Rhine, but failed to scare her. Instead, she hesitated for a moment. It's better not to stretch out your claws towards the little wizard, or just stay away from him. But at this moment, from Rhine's palm, a special smell mixed with a friendly breath poured into Professor McGonagall's brain. All the protective measures against cats such as catnip, polygonum multiflorum, etc., became ineffective the moment this scent arrived. How could these little tricks be able to resist the methods that the Honghuang beast taming sect uses to deal with spiritual beasts? Professor McGonagall's pupils dilated instantly. What's that smell? Rhine. He smells so good. Chapter 47. Just when Professor McGonagall was dizzy and fascinated by the methods of the Honghuang beast taming sect, Rhine picked up the tabby cat from the podium and scratched his chin amid the exclamations of the students. The tabby cat also cooperated by raising its head, and began to make purring sounds in its throat to express its comfort. The eyes of the little witches at the scene were shining. What a cute kitty! Even Hermione's eyes were sparkling. Rhine, can I touch it? Rhine's lips curled up into a smile. Of course you can. Look at this cat standing on the podium when class is almost over. It must really like being watched. It's like a kitten begging for petting. Maybe Hogwarts arranged this to ease our emotions on the first day of class. Are you nervous about the class? If you are nervous, come and rub it. Immediately, Rhine fumbled with the tabby cat's head while motioning for Hermione to come over. Hermione also stroked it carefully and sighed. What slippery fur! Then, the other little witches couldn't help it, and even some boys rushed to stretch out their hands. Suddenly, Professor McGonagall turned into a tabby cat and became the class favorite. Even though he was immersed in the taste of Rhine's hand, Professor McGonagall felt extremely ashamed and angry at this moment. His pupils were trembling, and he was filled with strong regret. Why on earth did I turn into a cat? I will never demonstrate my animagus powers in my first class again. Also, any cat-teasing items are not allowed into Hogwarts. All Professor McGonagall could do was pray silently in her heart. What happens here must not be seen by colleagues passing by. Otherwise it will become your own black history. All she could do now was wait for the bell to ring. By then, these little wizards would have some reservations and would have returned to their seats, and she would have found a chance to leave the classroom. At this moment, a scene that shocked Professor McGonagall appeared. Rhine waved the staff in his hand, and the next second, a box of matches continued to extend under Rhine's movements and turned into a bundle of cat toys. The little wizards around also exclaimed. Merlin above! Rhine, how did you do that? Some young wizards from wizard families were stunned. Before entering school, their parents had told them more than once that among all spells, transfiguration was the most mysterious and difficult. Wizards who can achieve success in transfiguration are almost always the best wizards. There is also an unwritten rule in Hogwarts that, generally speaking, the professor of transfiguration is the most likely to become the principal, which shows the importance of transfiguration. But now, before the class even started, Rhine showed off his transfiguration skills. We go to school together, why are you so outstanding? But that wasn't the only thing that surprised them. Hermione, help me decorate. Lacking aesthetic taste, Rhine looked at the bundle of cat toys in his hand and thought it was still too plain, so he turned to look at Hermione. Hermione smiled slightly. Compared to when she first entered school in the original book, her magical skills have undoubtedly improved a lot under Rhine's guidance. In the first lesson in the original book, Hermione could only barely turn matches into silver needles. But Hermione could do this kind of thing easily before entering school in this life. A moment later, Hermione waved her wand, and the cat toys immediately had some sparkling decorations on them, making them look much more beautiful. This made the little wizards feel numb. Harry and Ronald also looked at each other. No, the two friends I met on the train are so awesome. Aren't we the only two who are little Karami? At the same time, Rhine waved his staff again and turned a desk in front of him into a tall cat climbing frame. There was regret in his eyes. This is the limit of what his current magic power can do. Moreover, there are really many twists and turns in transfiguration. After all, it is a compulsory course for the top wizards in the HP world. Even if Rhine had a very smart mind, what he could learn from the little knowledge of transfiguration found in textbooks was very limited. But such a change was enough to cause the little wizards around to burst into loud shouts and exclaims again. Even Professor McGonagall, who was petting the cat, showed an intense surprise and shock in his pupils. Hermione and Rhine, aren't their transfiguration skills too exaggerated for young wizards? The key point is that they all come from Muggle families, which means that they are purely self-taught by looking at textbooks before going to school. Such talent is amazing. Professor McGonagall sees his own shadow in Hermione. As for Rhine, it's a monster. 10 points for Gryffindor. Professor McGonagall blurted out. But to the little wizards around, it sounded like a kitten calling cutely. Listen, the kitten is happy. Yes, kittens also like cat toys and cat climbing frames. Let's amuse him with these. Rhine smiled and distributed cat toys to the little wizards in the classroom. So, Professor McGonagall was led by the cat toy to run around the cat climbing frame, jumping up and down from time to time. The shock and joy in her pupils froze in an instant. What was I happy about just now? This transformation technique is good, but it's all for tormenting me. Professor McGonagall's face was filled with grief and indignation, but he couldn't help but move up and down the cat climbing frame with the cat teaser, panting. Rhine, I'll remember you. Just wait for me. There were bursts of cat meows, and a smile appeared on Rhine's lips at this moment. The reason is very simple. No matter how the relationship with Professor McGonagall was established, at least it was impossible for Professor McGonagall to develop an enemy relationship with a little wizard. So at this moment, the information on the system light screen has been refreshed. When Taoist Sahang was preaching, you showed your superior talent in the way of transformation, which made Taoist Sahang look at you differently and remember your name. Your relationship with Taoist Sahang has reached that of an acquaintance. You get a reward, the talent of all things becoming life. Do you want to claim the reward now? As this line of information emerged, Rhine also lifted the transformation spell. Rhine was already satisfied that they had become acquaintances in the first class. It will take time to continue being close friends with Professor McGonagall, so it's better to stop for now. Otherwise, what if Professor McGonagall really breaks down? Just at this moment, the class bell rang, and the surrounding little wizards showed some space. Professor McGonagall then seized the opportunity, came to his senses, and quickly fled the classroom. The little wizards who were waiting for class were all confused at this time. The class bell has rung, why hasn't Professor McGonagall come yet? She is known for her strictness, so she wouldn't be late for the first class, right? But soon, an owl flew into the classroom with a note and delivered a message. Professor McGonagall is too tired from working for days and feels unwell. I regretfully announce that the first class will be changed to a self-study class. Please read the first section of your Transfiguration textbook on your own and turn in your 3-inch long paper during the next class. Also, 10 points to Mr. Ryan Snow for Gryffindor and 5 points to Miss Hermione Granger for Gryffindor for their wonderful Transfiguration display. Since Mr. Ryan Snow has such a high level of knowledge in Transfiguration, it is probably reasonable to triple the length of the paper. Please hand in a 9-inch long paper next time. Chapter 48. When the group of little wizards heard the news from the owl, they were a little confused. The first class turns into a self-study class? But think about it, most of the freshmen were introduced by Professor McGonagall, and Professor McGonagall took the most effort in yesterday's sorting ceremony. It is normal for him to be exhausted at his age. Just study on your own. The 3-inch long essay assignment was enough to make the little wizards feel overwhelmed. Especially little wizards from Muggle families. Damn, I thought that learning magic would keep me away from things like doing homework, but why is there more homework in the wizarding world than in the Muggle world? But when they thought about the fact that Rhine had to write a paper 3 times as long, they felt a little lucky. A 9-inch long paper is almost as long as a magic wand. Isn't this fatal? Rhine curled her lips. My goodness, Professor McGonagall, this is a personal vendetta, right? Forget it, since she has contributed her talent of creating all things for me, I won't bother with her. At this time, a group of little wizards had already started their self-study with great enthusiasm. Having witnessed the performance by Rhine and Hermione just now, their enthusiasm for Transfiguration was unprecedentedly high. Thinking that he might also be able to perform such amazing magic, even the little wizard who didn't like studying opened the Transfiguration textbook with shining eyes. Isn't it just the first class? It's just introductory content, how difficult can it be? Etc. What is the standard structure of Transfiguration? What is Gamp's law of Transfiguration? What are the 137 steps to the introductory step of non-living transformation? Why is it that the first lesson content takes up more than 20 pages in the textbook, and there is not even a picture? Just taking notes makes them question their lives. As for actually performing Transfiguration, no one could do it. In fact, in the original book, only Hermione, who had prepared in advance, could keep up with Professor McGonagall's lecture and barely turn the match into a silver needle. This already made Professor McGonagall smile rarely. In the subsequent plot, Harry has used various spells, mastered the Patronus early on, can use the long-distance flying spell, and can even use the unforgivable curse successfully. But Harry had never used Transfiguration once. This thing is just like math, you can do anything when you're pushed too hard, but you really can't do Transfiguration. The noisy enthusiasm gradually died down, and pairs of eyes looking for help glanced towards Rhine and Hermione. Harry and Ronald were the first to lose their temper. Boss, help me. No, what does that mean? I can't understand anything. I have to write a 3-inch paper. Isn't this going to kill me? Rhine smiled, his eyes fixed on Hermione. He remembered that in the original book, when Hermione first entered school, her competitive personality and academic tyranny made the Gryffindor wizards very dissatisfied and she was even ostracized for a time. Now that Hermione and I are close friends, I certainly can't let this happen. He said to Hermione. Hermione, you seem to have learned all the content in this section. Do you want to try to teach everyone? Hermione was stunned for a moment, her face flushed, and she was a little at a loss. Lecture. I've never tried it before, and Rhine, your transfiguration is much better than mine, how can you let me give a lecture? Rhine said half jokingly and half seriously. Of course it's because I think you have the ability. Also, it's so cool to be the queen of all trades on stage and say whatever she wants. Don't worry, I'll be watching from below. I'll help you if anything happens. Hermione's eyes met Rhine's encouraging eyes, and she looked away quickly as if she had been electrocuted. She took a deep breath and then spoke in a trembling voice. Okay, if there's anything you don't understand, I can explain it to you. Harry, Ronald, Neville, Seamus, and all the remaining little wizards looked at Hermione with clear and innocent eyes. I don't understand anything. Hermione was stunned and said helplessly. Then I'll start with the first paragraph. Rhine added with a smile. Hermione's homework will also be given to everyone for reference. The next moment, the little wizards in the classroom were silent for a moment, and then there was a deafening cheer. Long live the Queen of Know-It-Alls! Hermione Granger, our savior! Hermione was a little overwhelmed by such cheers. After a while, with a trembling voice, she, with Rhine's encouragement, organized her thoughts and gave the young wizards her first lesson on understanding transfiguration. With the explanation of the top students, the originally obscure content is much easier to understand. By the end of the class, Hermione's throat was almost smoking. Although no one could turn a match into a silver needle, most people could make a slight change to the match. Whether it's a pointier match head or a little more silver on the match, such a small change is enough to make people excited. Even using Ronald's old wand made his matches a little sharper. Only Neville was still waving his wand around aimlessly, with a frustrated look on his face after class. The young wizards were rejoicing over transfiguration, and many of them came to ask Hermione for advice. No one saw Neville's expression at this time, except Rhine. Rhine said as he walked over to Neville, who was still waving his wand in vain, trying to make the matches change. Hey, Neville, you don't look well. Neville nodded dejectedly. I'm so stupid, I can't do anything right. Actually, I didn't understand what Hermione just said. You can make matches change, but I can't do that. My grandmother also said that I have a bad memory, and my uncle suspected that I was a squib. I suspect that it was a mistake for me to be admitted to Hogwarts. Perhaps soon the professors will find out that I can't use magic at all, and I'm clumsy, and they will expel me. Rhine didn't know what to say for a moment. Neville Longbottom is a model of late bloomer in the original book. When he first entered school, he was a clumsy student who was bullied for his clumsy hands. But the further you go, the more you realize that he is so brave and reliable. Harry Potter was gone, the man who led Dumbledore's army to fight injustice at Hogwarts. It was he who rebuked Voldemort in person, rejected Voldemort's recruitment, drew out the sword of Gryffindor, and destroyed the last Horcrux. He was called the Gryffindor Sword Master by countless HP fans. But now, he is still a little wizard with extremely low self-esteem. Rhine patted Neville on the shoulder and said seriously. Neville, believe in yourself, you are destined to come to Hogwarts. Believe in yourself, that's the best magic. What are your hobbies? Neville thought about it and hesitated. Raising pets, and also, raising flowers and plants. I like to raise potted plants at home. Rhine said firmly. You must be very talented in herbology then. Really, I promise you, maybe you will become the herbology professor at Hogwarts in the future. Neville stared at Rhine blankly, his eyes suddenly turning red. The Longbottom family is full of loyal and brave people. His parents fought against the Death Eaters until the last moment and were tortured to madness by the Cruciatus curse. He must uphold the Longbottom name, as the elders in his family have extremely high expectations of him. Therefore, from childhood to adulthood, he felt nothing but pressure and scolding. He felt like he couldn't do anything right. This was the first time someone had told him that he could become a professor at Hogwarts. For a moment, it was as if a seed was planted in Neville's heart. At this moment, a line of information was refreshed on the Rhine system screen. When you were seeking the truth in Yuxu Palace, you met Tuxing Soon, a young man who felt inferior because of his short stature and poor talent. Your encouragement made the young Tuxing Soon feel much better. You and the young Tuxing Soon become casual friends. Chapter 49. Rhine showed a hint of surprise. Tuxing Soon, the eldest disciple of Julius Soon among the 12 golden immortals of the Chan sect, was born with a short stature, different from ordinary people, but had a unique talent in the way of earth walking. During the conferred god tribulation, his magic skills shone brightly. Rhine didn't expect the system to identify Neville as Tuxing Soon. But it does make sense when you think about it. Both of them experienced ridicule and felt inferior in the beginning, but later achieved success. Soon, Rhine's eyes fell on the information derived from Tuxing Soon's connections. Becoming a casual friend of Tuxing Soon will give you a talent, farming skills. You will be more familiar with the soil, understand the properties of any kind of soil, and have a unique understanding of growing crops in the soil. Become a close friend of Tuxing Soon and you will gain the gift, Earth Spirit. Your compatibility with the earth veins will increase significantly. When you stand on the ground, you can draw on the earth's energy, which will increase your strength in all directions. You can also use the earth's energy to absorb spiritual energy, which will greatly benefit your cultivation. By reaching a life and death friendship with Tuxing Soon, you can obtain the magical power, the underground travel. Blending into the ground, passing through the soil, and traveling thousands of miles in an instant. Except for the magical power of turning the ground into steel, ordinary magical powers cannot restrain it. It is a first-class escape method in the prehistoric conferred gods. Rhine's eyes suddenly lit up. Tuxing Soon is indeed a man who relies on his one trick of earth walking to conquer the world, and his several talents are all related to mud. The first talent is farming skills, which I think is the introduction to the following talents. After all, in order to borrow the power of the earth veins, of course you have to be familiar with the properties of the soil first. Although this talent does not improve strength much, in Rhine's opinion, the prospects are quite bright. With this talent, if I want to cultivate some rare plants in the future, I should be able to get twice the result with half the effort. As we all know, alchemy is of great benefit to the growth of cultivation. Especially in a place like the magic world where spiritual energy is scarce. If one day Rhine cannot rely on absorbing spiritual energy from heaven and earth to practice, he may have to rely on herbs to make pills. The second innate earth spirit can both enhance strength and absorb spiritual energy to assist in cultivation. In terms of level, it is much higher than Rhine's current ability to absorb spiritual energy by eating wind and drinking dew. There was a hint of heat deep in Rhine's pupils. He is also determined to obtain this talent. In addition, Owl Roberts has a talent of sun essence and moon essence, and the Dragon Palace in the Black Lake has a talent of Dragon Spirit, both of which can absorb spiritual energy. If these talents are melted at that time, perhaps a very high-level talent to assist in cultivation can be produced. There is even a slight possibility that this level of talent is close to achieving the Vajra body. At that time, Rhine should not have to worry about insufficient spiritual energy for a long time. Even if he does not make connections, his strength will soar by relying on the infusion of spiritual energy. In particular, the problem of insufficient magic power will be easily solved. As for the last reward, underground travel, Rhine didn't care that much. After all, in the magic world, with his current strength, there are not many people who can make him turn around and escape. Take it if you have a chance. Thoughts flashed through his mind, and Rhine looked at Neville, who was so moved that his eyes were filled with tears, and patted him. Okay, Neville, the next class is herbology. Believe in yourself, you can do it. Neville nodded vigorously and walked towards the herbology greenhouse with Rhine. Rhine had seen this greenhouse in a movie in his previous life, but when he saw it in person, his eyes widened. All I can say is that the imagination in previous movies was too limited. Only by coming here in person can you understand how big the greenhouse is and how many different kinds of herbs are carefully cultivated inside, to the point where you can't see the end at a glance. No wonder Hogwarts has produced so many potion geniuses throughout the ages, and the professor of potions classes has always been the potions master. For wizards engaged in potion research, this greenhouse is simply a treasure trove. In the original book, Slughorn, who briefly replaced Snape as the potions professor, often hung out outside the greenhouse, trying to persuade Professor Sprout to grow pineapples for him in the greenhouse so as to provide a high-quality source of pineapple preserves. One can imagine how good the conditions in this greenhouse are to make a potion master obsessed with it. This greenhouse, which is affiliated with Hufflepuff College, is just like the characteristics of this college. It is diligent, hardworking, and has played an important role without asking for anything in return. It is worth mentioning that Professor of Herbology Pomona Sprout, also known as Dean Hufflepuff. The Pomona in its name is the goddess of fruits and fruit trees in Roman mythology. Sprout is a homophone for sprouting and growing. He is definitely a master of herbal medicine, and he is always gentle and tolerant towards his students. Even though Seamus, the dynamite genius, displayed his unique talent for explosions shortly after the class began, inexplicably waving his wand and causing the nutrient solution used to water the herbs to begin bubbling, Professor Sprout did not deduct any points. She just announced something with her eyelids twitching. From now on, Mr. Seamus, please leave your wand outside during herbology. Well, and you're in the front row, so you have to operate under my nose. Immediately, Professor Sprout took out sweet pumpkin pie like a magic trick for the dejected Seamus and the frightened little wizards. Try it. This is made from the pumpkin I grew myself. The pumpkins used for dinner at the castle are not as good as those used here. Professor Sprout continued his teaching only after the little wizards forgot what had happened just now because of the sweet pumpkin pie. Okay, continue to take care of the tubers. You have to be very careful. Although it is difficult, I hope you can take good care of every root. At this time, she explained the key points while walking among the little wizards, pointing out their mistakes. As he passed by Rhine and Neville's operating desk, Professor Sprout's already kind face showed even more smiles. Perfect technique, just like in a textbook. Sprout looked at Rhine and smiled. 5 points to Gryffindor for Rhine Snow's methods. At the same time, her eyes fell on Neville, and when Neville was nervous and a little at a loss, Professor Sprout smiled even more. She looked closely at the tubers of plants that Neville was tending. Neville, who showed his clumsy nature from the beginning of the sorting ceremony, was extremely careful in caring for plants. Neville took good care of every root, even the tiniest one. Perhaps this does not require the talent that is often praised by the world, but only requires diligence, carefulness, and fearlessness of trouble. But who can say that the latter is not a talent? At least in herbology, Professor Sprout feels that this is top talent. 10 points to Gryffindor for being attentive and hardworking Neville Longbottom. You may not be able to learn Rhine's techniques, but you can all learn Neville's attitude. Everything in this world may not be rewarded for your efforts, but herbal medicine is an exception. It is a discipline that treats hardworking people well. The soil and herbs will not turn a blind eye to your sweat, nor will they make you empty promises. I believe you will have a deeper understanding of this in the future. Chapter 50. Rhine looked thoughtful after hearing Professor Sprout's explanation of herbology. Each of the 4 colleges has its own flagship disciplines. Gryffindor is undoubtedly known for its transfiguration skills. The 2 most recent transfiguration professors are both from Gryffindor. This extremely dangerous subject is undoubtedly in line with the adventurous nature of Gryffindor. Ravenclaw's trump card is Charmology, a discipline that studies runes and thoroughly explores the principles of spells, which fits the temperament of the young eagles who are thirsty for knowledge. Slytherin College is an expert at potions, with both headmasters Slughorn and Snape being masters of potions. Obviously, the aura, fame and wealth of the potion master, and even the magic liquid that is like blood in the potion, are all very much to the taste of the little snakes. Hufflepuff's trump card subject is, without a doubt, herbology. The soil and herbs never let down the sweat. The little badgers may not be so brave, knowledgeable, and ambitious, but their efforts have made Hufflepuff achieve great results in herbology. Meanwhile, Neville wasn't thinking about that. When he heard Professor Sprout give him extra points, his mind went blank and he just stayed there. Neville had never thought that he could add points to the House Cup, let alone that Professor Sprout would specifically ask other young wizards to learn from him. This is truly an unprecedented thing. I have to write to my grandmother about this. She's worried I'll be expelled, but I give Gryffindor points. Merlin, she might cry. Even after class, Neville was still excitedly talking to Rhine about how happy he was. Rhine smiled and clapped his hands. Of course you are. I've already told you that you are a herbal genius. Professor Sprout also said so. Now you believe it, right? But before you write to your grandmother, Neville, look at that. Rhine pointed to a sign posted near the greenhouse entrance. Neville turned around and looked when he heard that. The notice said that students were being recruited to participate in greenhouse care work. Students had to be in the 3rd year or above and had good grades in herbology. This is the best greenhouse in the entire wizarding world, Neville. If you can take part in the work here, it will definitely be a very glorious experience. I think your grandmother and your uncle will never think that you will be expelled from Hogwarts again. You will be their pride. Neville was stunned for a moment, with hesitation and lack of confidence on his face. But it says that you have to be in the 3rd grade or above, and there are requirements for your herbology grades. Rhine, I've only been in one class. What if it's just a coincidence? Professor Sprout might get mad at me in the next class. But before he could finish his words, Rhine dragged him back to the greenhouse. How do you know if you don't try? Rhine dragged Neville and strode towards Professor Sprout, who was silently cleaning up the mess left by the careless little wizards. Professor Sprout, I want to ask you a favor. Rhine spoke to Professor Sprout. Professor Sprout shuddered and said in a decisive tone. No. Rhine was stunned for a moment, and the expectation in Neville's eyes dimmed. The next second, Professor Sprout took out a booklet passed down by herbology professors, 100 herbology pranks for Gryffindor students. No lending plants to Gryffindors. Devil's snare seeds? No, don't even think about growing devil's snare in the bathroom. Mandra? No, if anyone dares to hide a mandrake in the sorting hat and make it sing during the sorting ceremony, I will press his head into the fertilizer. Biting kale? Not even a small one like that. And you are not allowed to throw this thing at the back of your classmates' heads. And there's a way to graft the whomping willow in the dormitory? Don't even think about it. Rhine stayed there. Gryffindor seniors. What have you done? Rhine was actually thinking of asking Professor Sprout if he could give her some biting cabbage seeds. The mature form of this thing was quite powerful in the Hogwarts game of the previous life, and could even chew up giant monsters. In the end, the discussion ended before I even opened my mouth. This road is blocked by the Gryffindor seniors. Immediately, Rhine said embarrassedly. Professor, we are not here to borrow plant seeds. We saw a notice at the greenhouse door recruiting part-time workers. I thought Neville might give it a try. He really wants to make his grandmother proud of him. Professor Sprout's eyes softened, revealing a hint of distress. Of course, the professors all knew about the Longbottom family. Neville's parents were tortured by the Cruciatus curse and went crazy, and all of this was witnessed by the young Neville. In order to make Neville forget this unforgettable cruel scene, he was cast under a forgetfulness spell. The reason why Neville is so forgetful and clumsy now is inseparable from what happened back then. Professor Sprout, who is always very gentle to his students, of course treats Neville even more differently. Hearing Rhine's request, she hesitated for a moment. Taking care of the greenhouse is a very hard job that requires patience and a lot of knowledge of herbal medicine. Even senior students will find it difficult. There has never been a precedent of first-year students working here part-time. But the next moment, a bright smile appeared on her lips. But I think starting from this year, many conventions will be broken, so it's okay for me to make an exception. So, Neville, if you want, you can give it a try. But I must tell you in advance that taking care of these herbs is very hard work. You have to start by cleaning the tools of senior students and slowly learn. At the same time, you have to get an O in the herbology exam every school year. Also, don't forget the time. Neville's eyes suddenly showed excitement and he nodded hurriedly. Professor, I am not afraid of hard work. I will never forget this. Professor Sprout smiled and waved goodbye to Rhine and Neville. A line of information appeared on the Rhine system screen. You and Tuxing soon came to Jade Dinggenren to take care of the medicinal fields. You helped Tuxing soon gain the appreciation of Jade Dinggenren. You have established a small connection with Jade Dinggenren. Continue to deepen the connection and you will gain endless benefits. Professor Sprout was judged to be Jade Dinggenren. In the original novel, he used medicine to treat the Golden Immortal who attacked King Joe's army twice, which is quite appropriate. The only pity for Rhine was that he was unable to establish a casual acquaintance with Professor Sprout this time. But it was not surprising to him that it was not that easy to establish connections with professors. It was a pleasant surprise that I had been able to establish a casual acquaintance with Professor McGonagall. Take it slow. The more you interact with each other, the deeper the relationship will be. However, some people gain something in some places. After this incident, the relationship between Rhine and Neville has obviously improved. You and the young Tuxing soon become close friends. You gain the gift, Earth Spirit. Do you want to claim the reward now? At this time, Neville was still chattering and thanking Rhine. Rhine smiled. Why thank me? We are just buddies living in the same dormitory. Besides, I have already received the best thank you gift. While Neville was confused, Rhine made an excuse of having a stomachache and walked towards the bathroom. In the bathroom cubicle, Rhine looked at the reward that had been waiting for him since last night, and his heart moved slightly. System, sharp ears and eyes, body like a crane, all things come into being, farming is skillful, earth spirit primordial spirit. Give me all of them. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.